the last 7 parts of the series, we've been following the rise of Candace Owens and the way her platform, influence, and public persona has evolved over time. In this episode, we're really going to narrow in. We're looking specifically at her time at the Daily Wire and the pattern of public attacks that has become increasingly difficult to ignore. From the way she publicly shamed critics and commentators to the escalation of personal conflicts, this chapter examines how confrontation became a defining part of her media presence. We'll highlight several examples, including the attacks on Meghan McCain and others, before turning to one of the biggest controversies of that period, the Steven Crowder contract dispute and the fallout that followed. This is part 8. Hello, everyone, and welcome back. I hope everyone is doing well, and welcome anybody who is new. Welcome, welcome. Okay, so we are going to continue on with our Candace Owens series. That is what we are going to do. So let's see what I've got for us today. Now, last episode, we focused really in on things she did at the Daily Wire that were very uncouth. There was a lot of stuff looking back and thinking about things that were really not that cool. And today we're going to focus on 2 more instances during that time. So the first one we are going to look at is Meghan McCain. So this incident, the first incident, happened December 21st, and it was what is known as the body shaming feud. And this happened before the Crowder incident. This happened at the height of COVID and VAX debates. And the trigger was that Donald Trump pushed back on Owens during an interview for her strong anti-vax stance. Meghan McCain tweeted praise for Trump schooling Owens with facts and logic on vaccines. Owens fired back directly at McCain on Twitter, saying, "Hey Meghan, did you know that the overwhelming majority of people dying and or being hospitalized from COVID are clinically obese? People like you love the vaccine because it allows you to pretend that you care about health." Okay, so look, I don't like that. Like, I'm not for that stuff, but I don't care what other people do. And that was a really hot issue that people were very hostile with each other about, that I just really didn't agree with. I didn't feel like there needed to be so much vitriol towards each other about that whole situation. But this is particularly gross because she's basically saying that you just want to look like you care about health because you are fat. And that's why you like the vaccine, which is not smart. It's illogical. It's not a good argument. And it's just to be mean to her. So anytime anybody argues or says anything against her, she has to say something back, and she has to be really mean and vile about it. This was widely reported as fat shaming, body shaming. McCain and the two went back and forth in a heated Twitter battle, and with Owens doubling down. This was well before the Steven Crowder feud, which began in January 2023 with the Daily Wire contract drama and escalated in April 2023 with the extortion divorce accusations. In April of 2024, another incident happened, which was another clinically obese reference, And this was after the Crowder incident, obviously. And Owens again referenced McCain's weight in a involving McCain's husband, Ben Dominic. I don't know how to say that. She reposted and amplified comments tying it to health and obesity narratives. And then there was a more recent feud in March, but we won't get into all that. Okay, so I did find some stuff on that, which it was really kind of hard to find because a lot of it was just being mean to like Meghan McCain, and I didn't like that. So, but we have what we have. This stuff is from like 4 years ago. Okay, let's see what this guy has to say. This video is called Meghan McCain versus Candace Owens, and I don't know the channel name, but everything will be linked in the bottom of, in the description box. And I don't watch all of these videos. I sort of just skim them. So let's see what this guy has to say. This is 4 years old, I believe.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Andrew Hall. You may call me Dr. Kennard. This is the Disappointed Cat Morning Show, and we're going to cover a couple of stories this morning. It'll inform you, maybe it'll make you laugh a little bit. We'll see what happens, right? If you're watching on Twitter, if you're watching on Facebook, you will see that I interact with people on YouTube in the chat just because I can see their chat on the streaming service that I use. If you want to join us, if you want to have an active conversation, come on over to YouTube, and we can do that. All right, let's do the first story. Candace Owens versus Meghan McCain. Now, some of you, we talked about Candace Owens yesterday, and Candace Owens, who is the poster child for stupid and confident. Stupid and confident. It's so many times we see this with conservatives, right? Not too bright, but they're really loud about it. And Miss Owens is not too bright and really loud about it.
Now, I would say that about the ones that are really loud and that they put out, because being conservative doesn't mean that you're low IQ, okay? Unfortunately, a lot of them that seem to be out in front act like they're low IQ or something. I don't know what their problem is. But anyway, it's pretty crazy. So I don't necessarily agree with that.
Well, let's put a pin on Candace Owens. Let's talk about Meghan McCain. Of course, she is the daughter of now deceased John McCain, senator from Arizona. Meghan McCain was on the talk show The View, for a number of years. She was a conservative on The View. And Meghan McCain, she's the kind of conservative that named her child Liberty. Brilliant name. A little on the nose for me. She also, I believe she calls herself a social liberal and a fiscal conservative. And I have to tell you something, everyone. People who call themselves social liberals and fiscal conservatives do not understand how society works or how economies work either. Because you see, when you're saying that you're a social liberal, and a fiscal conservative, what you're saying is that even though I support the welfare of other people, I'm going to undercut that by not funding basic programs to support basic rights like food, education, clean drinking water, clean air. So once again, that's Meghan McCain right there. So let's get right into the story. The links are in the description below, everyone. Oh, this is the...
So that is a bit of a misnomer, but I find that a lot of people will, like I said, people misunderstand ideologies and worldviews, and they label people certain things that they're not. But I have noticed that there are a lot of conservatives that are fiscally conservative or conservative on certain things and then more liberal on other things like social issues, etc. And so, like I said, people can have a bit of both from all worlds in my last video that hopefully will be up before this video, or that won't make any sense.
This is the beef. We're going to get right into the beef. So as you all know, if you were watching the show yesterday and the day before, because this has been like a heavy Candace Owens week, which I never thought I would say that on the show because we try to do real news here. But this is so crazy. So Candace Owens, she had an interview with Donald J. Trump. Donald Trump rebuked her and said, hey, the vaccines are working. People should be taking the vaccines. And Candace Owens basically replied on her Instagram saying that, hey, the only reason why Donald J. Trump is now in favor of vaccines is because he's too old to read information on the internet. Her words, not mine. So Meghan McCain said, hey, Candace Owens, you better check yourself before you wreck yourself. I'm sorry, I had to say that. Meghan McCain just basically called out Candace Owens and said, you don't know what you're talking about. And then things escalated quickly. Trump schooling Candace Owens with facts and logic regarding getting the vaccine is really a sight to behold. Credit where credit is due, and I hate the guy. Anyone who's been paying any attention to politics over the last 5 years or so knows that there's beef between the McCain family and with Donald J. Trump. But even now, Meghan McCain saying, hey, it was pretty wonderful seeing Trump schooling Candace Owens. Now, Candace Owens, being a grifter that she is, was not going to let that just sit there. She saw an opportunity to grab the limelight, and that is what she did. Hey, Meghan. Oh, I can't do her voice well. Hey, Meghan. I'm going to do Lumpy Space Princess. Hey, Meghan. Did you know that the overwhelming majority of people dying and or being hospitalized from COVID-19 are clinically obese? People like you love the vaccine because it allows you to pretend that you care about health. People like me see right through your bullshit. Actually, the people, and we're doing a whole story. We're spending the last third of the show talking about who is dying from COVID-19, what counties are being affected, what areas in the country are not doing well with COVID-19. And there are graphs, there are infographics, but I'm getting ahead of the story, everyone. So this was Candace Owens, of course, spinning the information in the way that you would expect Candace Owens to do it, in a mean, not that smart, but very loud kind of way. And this goes back and forth before Meghan McCain decides to drop the F-bomb. So this is Candace Owens. If we go down to the bottom, you're slipping into utter irrelevancy, and it's sad to watch. Do you want to come on my show, Meg? Just say the word, and I'll have my producers reach out. And that's what Candace Owens said. And Meghan McCain said, coming from the woman who did an entire Instagram live tonight, talking about at length about how obese I am, as opposed to addressing the fact that her hero fact checker, you spread misinformation about the safety of vaccines.
Oh, we know there were probably tons of Instagram lives and all that, right? Like, we've already learned this is what she does, like we saw in the last episode.
You are a danger to public health. Get effed. Oh, Meghan McCain. I'm not a big fan of Meghan McCain, but anyone who tells Candace Owens to go get effed, you're not doing too badly in my books. Job well done. What happened to having conservatives who were decent folks you could nicely disagree with, and they really wanted the best for the country? You could reach out on an agreement. Oh, those days are gone. Unfortunately, those days are gone.
So Meghan McCain started it by basically saying her name in a tweet. So, I mean, I ain't mad at Candace Owens for going off Meghan McCain. However, Candace Owens was doing too much in that Trump interview. Look, I didn't see the whole thing because they were charging, and then you had to buy it through Candace Owens' colleague's website, Ben Shapiro, the Daily Wire, and I'm not paying for no damn Trump interview. I'm not paying for no damn interview, okay? But there was a lot of mixed feelings about what Trump said, and we went over that already. And so then Meghan McCain went call for backup. She's like, Ben Shapiro, get your girl Candace, get your colleague. Meghan, you can't start a fight and then try to get backup. Come on, girl. Stop being a snowflake. Let's talk about it. So if you're new to my channel, hello, I'm JOA. Please subscribe and click the bell so you'll be the first to know when I upload. I really appreciate it. There's no more dislike button. You can't really see it anymore. Well, you can see it, but you can't see the number of dislikes. So you might as well just give me a thumbs up. You might as well just share this video with your friends and your family members. Leave me a comment below what you think. And it's pretty, it's not really surprising because Candace Owens really don't take ish from anyone. But she has said some good things about Meghan McCain in the past while she was on The View. So, but like I said, Meghan McCain started this. So they went back and forth on Twitter the other day, right? And so I'm gonna read y'all most of the tweets because it's just too much. So Meghan McCain says, Trump schooling Candace Owens with facts and logic regarding the vaccine is really a sight to behold. Credit where credit is due, and I hate the guy. Mind you, she only hates the guy because Trump didn't really get along with her father, okay? Candace Owens says, hey, Meghan, did you know that the overwhelming majority of people dying and or being hospitalized from COVID-19 are clinically obese? People like you love the vaccine because it allows you to pretend that you care about health. People like me see right through that bullshit. So basically, she's calling Meghan McCain fat. I mean, she's big, but and so that's when Meghan says, "Come get your girl, Ben Shapiro," because Meghan McCain, she's a Republican, but she says some stuff that lean left with the body shaming and stuff like that. So, and then Candace goes, "Why don't you come get this medical paper which correlates clinical obesity to 113% higher chance of hospitalization, 74% higher chance of ICU admission, and a 48% chance of death? Vaccine." It's crazy. And Meghan goes, "LOL, I know it stings having your golden guy Trump call you out on your anti-vaxxer BS." I hate when people say anti-vaxxer. I hate that. And then Candace says, you clearly did not watch the interview and are just reading headlines. What exactly did I say that was anti-vax in the interview, Meghan? Exactly. Also, golden god, what is up with these preschool comebacks, clown? Meghan says, your post-Trump pro-vaccine interview spiral has been really fun for all of us to watch. Candace writes, you are slipping into utter irrelevancy. She ain't lying. And it's sad to watch. Do you want to come on my show, Meghan? Just say the word and I'll have my producers reach out. Meghan writes, coming from the woman who did an entire IG live tonight talking at length about how obese I am as opposed to address the fact that her hero fact checked her. You spread misinformation about the safety of vaccines. You're a danger to public health. Get effed. Candace writes, an entire IG live about you. Have you lost your mind? I told people I was running late to my live because I responded to your fake health concerns on Twitter. I then proceeded to do an entire IG live regarding Gardasil, DTaP, and hepatitis B vaccines as planned. And she also commented about her get fucked comment. And so, are you team Meghan or team Candace or team nobody? Let me know. But anyway, you guys, I was here for the comebacks. I was here for the back and forthness between two people that call themselves Republicans and conservatives. I was here for it. And Candace Owens, you slipped up in that interview. Like you literally slipped up. It you know, it's just you're being biased as opposed to factual. You know, a lot of people say, well, we probably got more deaths this year because of the second strand. And that's the reason why, you know, we keep getting more strands, because she did mention Biden having more of a death toll than Trump. And so, and from my knowledge, like I said before, I think Candace Owens was surprised when Trump defended the vaccine, that he got out. Like, he was never anti-vax, but he wasn't public about it. He never advertised it or showed to his base that, hey, he takes his vaccine. He didn't want to do that, right? I don't know why. I guess he just didn't want to piss off his base, probably. But, you know, he should have.
Well, I don't know what this guy's talking about, because Trump constantly praised that thing, and then people would be like so upset, like the base would be like, why is he saying it? And it's like, who cares? He did something he feels was really good. He got this, like, cut through all the red tape and got this whatever out. He just, you know, people are weird. You're never going to have everything just be perfect, where there's just like one perfect person that nothing they do upsets you. You know what I mean? So, like, everybody just needs to, like, calm down with this kind of stuff like this, in my opinion.
First came out and say, hey, I'm taking it. You know, he took a whole bunch of shit besides the vaccine. You know, it is what it is. I really don't have nothing else to say. I know a lot of people say 90% of people are in hospitals, but we can't just sit there and say the people that have passed away from taking this vaccine, they matter too. Because a lot of people as well, like several thousands of people passed away from taking this as well. You know, check out Dr. Heckelman in Florida. 2 weeks after he took the vaccine, he dead. So, but for the most part, it's working for people. It's working. You know, I just wish the media is honest 100% and just say, hey, you may get some extreme side effects. You may die. You know, they don't want to tell y'all that. They don't want to be honest with you. Anyways, let me know what you think in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe and click the bell.
Okay, well, that guy was pretty funny, and I think we pretty much got the gist of that. Now, I want to show you one more thing. Okay, so I believe that this is Meghan McCain's show, and this is recent. And it's called, you know, she addresses like the fat shaming. I guess there was like more fat shaming on Tucker recently. I don't know. But she just talks about how she's been fat shamed a lot. And, you know, I don't like that. I think I don't think we should comment on people's looks like that. You know, I'm bigger than I normally am because I always am when I have kids. So I have 3 kids. I normally stay like a certain weight like this until after they're done breastfeeding, and then I just sort of like lose the weight over a period of time. And there were people that met me in my life after I had already had my first baby. And I remember that once I started getting back down to my normal weight, which is very small, my normal weight is a very petite person, people thought I was sick and were like really concerned about me and had started having like meetings about it, and then like confronted me. And I was like, nothing is wrong. Like, I'm just going back down to my weight. And so my last child that I had, you know, just recently stopped nursing. So we'll see what happens. I am older. Unfortunately, I feel like this whole idea of having children later in life is like a total scam because now you're going into menopause and all kinds of messed up things are happening. And everybody who knows who has small children, it's really hard to take care of yourself. So I feel like you should have all this done and the children old enough that you kind of have some time for yourself before you reach menopause, at least. Right? Like, because 40, you start going into menopause. It's called perimenopause. Okay? And you start getting that hot flashes sometimes. You start getting that achy joints. You don't feel good. You feel tired, like all kinds of stuff. And people don't know what it is. Well, it's perimenopause. Look it up. Okay? And now you've got a baby that you got to pick up all the time and run all around the house, trashing everything, you know, another baby, like older baby. So yeah, it's just, you know, something to think about. I mean, people do whatever you want to do and life is going to life whatever happens. But anyway, I don't, you know, think people will be in different stages of their life where their weight fluctuates, especially if you are a woman. So I just don't think it's right to do that. You know,
I'm addressing this here, even though I already addressed it on Twitter. Tucker Carlson had a guest on his show, and I'm not gonna say his name because it's not worth it. And they had a whole I did not watch the whole episode because I don't watch Tucker Carlson's show because it's just not my kind of content. He's not my kind of commentator. And they had a guest on who, among other things, talked about how my dad was gay because of his foreign policy, or there was like something gayer than my dad's foreign policy. My dad
was
had 7
crazy.
children, was married twice to 2 women, and not to make this weird for everybody, was like a notorious ladies' man before he got married. Actually dated a stripper when he was in college at the Naval Academy. It's a story that's in his book. I'm not speaking out of turn, but it was like a little mild controversy for him when he ran for office. I don't care. My dad really loved women. I think that I don't really have anything else to prove about that. So that's an interesting thing. Apparently everyone's gay, according to this commentator. And they talked about how fat I am. I'm a big fat lady. I'm 9 months pregnant. I have been fat shamed in my career since I started in media. I mean, I'm sure it's actually before I even met you, Miranda. People really have a real hard on about the fact that I'm not skinny. I don't know why it's so threatening in the age of like Ozempic and like hyper diets and whatever, that like I somehow have had like a great career and a husband and kids and got everything I wanted by not being a size 0. These are disgusting trolls and it's disgusting commentary. And for me, it's annoying and it's obnoxious. But I think about all the women who follow our show, follow our work, who may be struggling with a weight issue. Life is crazy. I'm super up and down, having babies, COVID, life. You know, if you work really hard, it's hard to fit in those workouts. We're all doing the very
Turning
best we
40.
can.
I mean, my goodness.
Yeah.
Not to mention-
Thyroid issues for people. Like there's so many things. I always say you just never know anybody's story with anything, particularly when it comes to weight. So I just want to say to anyone who saw that, don't feel bad for me, but feel bad for people who this is what they're doing for content farming and engaging. And I think part of the reason people are so scared to go after Tucker Carlson or his guests or anything is because they are very powerful people in the media. These are people with huge followings. These are people with, you know, I mean, way more followers than I'll probably ever have. And people are scared, but it's bullying and it should be called out. And
So I don't know if I mentioned it, but this was 4 months ago. Okay.
I just can't believe I'm 41 years old and I'm still being bullied about my weight, like as I'm like preparing to give birth. And yeah, I am fat. I gained a lot of weight when I'm pregnant, which you're supposed to do, but I'm also healthy. Not that it's anybody's business, but I have like a very healthy pregnancy, thank God. I don't have gestational diabetes. I don't have anything like that. Like I have very healthy pregnancy. I don't really have anything else to say other than a lot of women are really upset in my feed, on my social media, in my Twitter and Instagram and whatever. And we don't have to do this. Like women, you do not have to, I'm living proof, you do not have to Ozempic yourself to hell in order to have a great career. And I just really want people, if that's my only thing at this point, the only thing I do in my life is to remind people that you can have a healthy relationship with food, have a healthy relationship to your body, and still have a great career. I'm here to tell you that because this toxicity and this, I'm very concerned about. We talked about it on the show with like Wicked and it seems like heroin chic's coming back and Ozempic. Everyone's just like Ozempic to hell. Like nobody wants to eat, nobody wants anything. You, me,
I
like,
do.
and Essie Cup are the last.
Let's go to
two
Arby's
left.
after this, please. Like,
Totally. And I always say like you, me, and Essie Cup are gonna be like the last bitches splitting carbs in media.
God.
But I just want to say like, we don't have to go down this road. We don't have to do this. And I will never, ever talk about someone's weight in any way whatsoever that's negative like that, because again, life is complicated and it's ugly and it's cruel and we don't need to be talking about anybody's bodies that way. I don't have anything else to add unless you want to add anything, Miranda.
Tucker Carlson has 3 daughters. And I don't know how, you know, they
I don't
feel-
know actually.
I looked it up. He's got some daughters, whether or not it's 3 or whatever. He's got 4 kids. I'm curious how they feel hearing these comments and that their dad co-signs or endorses them, platforms them, didn't seem to negate them or, you know, push back on them, much like he's been doing a lot lately with some very
I would say
inflammatory
Tucker
things.
Carlson didn't say it. He just laughed along.
Right,
with
but
it.
that's what I'm saying. It's like
But
he's allowing
then,
it.
sorry to interrupt you, but then his channel promoted the clip last night.
Exactly.
Like, and so clearly he's endorsing it because your channel is promoting
Yeah,
it.
he's
Okay, go ahead.
co-signing it. He's allowing this jabroni to come on his channel and espouse these beliefs about women. I wonder what his wife thinks. You know, and Kate Winslet had an interesting point she made over the weekend. It's like she doesn't go on Ozempic.
You know what? I just thought of something. Has anyone ever seen Tucker's wife? I don't know if I've ever seen her. Like, has anybody? Now that I think about it, I don't think the entire time, my whole life basically, that Tucker has been a fixture, right? I don't think I've ever seen his wife. Has anybody else? Is that just me?
And she's like, you don't know what they're putting in these meds, and everyone's just taking them because the supreme ideal is to be this rail thin, skinny, whatever twig. It's like that's not what we need to do. That's not what we need to display for our younger women. We already had to grow up in this toxic, low rise, very skinny, early 2000s body ideal, and it wasn't healthy for us. And I don't want our girls to have to live through that.
I don't either. Yeah.
Or give that ideal to the young men who are growing up that they expect that. I think that we had a really good run there for a while where people just were accepting how people looked. And I think we need to get back to that, because to go on and just say you're fat, which is absolutely insane. What does that bring to the table? What does that, like, what point does that prove? It's an insane talking point and it doesn't make any sense. And I don't even know why we're platforming this person. They've been banned for a decade. And I went online to do some research last night, and every couple of years there's some article about this person's comeback. So is this another 4th or 5th failed attempt at a comeback? So, you know, they're going to pop their head out of the ground like some mole person that they are. And then they'll go back to, relative obscurity again for another couple of years.
And again, I just want to say, like, I had like a fantastic weekend. I went to an elf viewing party with my kids, which was so fun. I
What is
highly
an elf
recommend anyone.
viewing party? That's cute.
Okay, the Alamo Draft House does it. If you guys have an Alamo Draft House
Oh,
near,
Elf the movie.
yes, the movie Elf.
I
And
thought you meant like a baby
dress
doing it,
up.
but it's an elf.
No, it's like you dress up. They have like interactive things with a movie. And I know our guest is here. Just 1 second, see. And then there was like a person who dressed up like Elf, like fantastic. And then I went to our friend Vanessa, who you guys maybe know, her kid's birthday party yesterday. Like, I had a great weekend. Like, I had a great life. It's not about me. I just worry about the women who follow me seeing this and feeling bad about themselves. And I also want to say one last final thing, and then we're moving on. I am not going to go on Ozempic or tirzepatide or whatever after I give birth. It's everybody's decisions about their bodies and their lives are their own. For me, being a little fatter doesn't bother me the way it does everybody else. Like I'm going to try and lose weight healthy and I want to be healthy, but I don't know what's wrong with me. I think I got like Men in Black flashed in my eyes at my like formative years. Like the way I look doesn't bother me the way it does, like Tucker Carlson.
You're gorgeous.
So, no, I think that life, the one thing I really learned when my dad was dying of brain cancer is that like, you really do not know how long you have on this earth, and the energy I want to put into my life and my day and my friends and my loved ones and my work, weight and an obsession with being skinny. I do not have the bandwidth. I do not have the bandwidth for it. I literally do not have the time. And also, I was talking to Ashley about this earlier. We have a show party, Christmas dinner coming up. I want to eat food with everybody and have a good time and like whatever. If I wasn't pregnant, I'd have a glass of wine, like whatever.
Okay, so that's interesting. Um, that's what I found for that. But Candace Owens attacked Meghan McCain quite a bit. And I did find this clip of her attacking her for like a whole nother reason on the Daily Wire. Okay, so this isn't a very long clip, and this is from her Daily Wire days. And I don't know if they have if you can find those shows or not, but let's see what she has to say in this clip.
She shared on her Instagram multiple photos to promote her new book. And that to her was the final straw. She wanted to say, I don't know why I'm trending on Twitter. People were attacking her. They were mocking her, I should say, not attacking her, mocking her for the abysmal book sales, and then mocking her even further for actually doing this as a photo op. Look at this picture. If you're listening right now, it is a photo. She's holding her child and she is standing over her father's grave. Now, if you think that that's bad enough, taking photos in graveyards, to me, it makes me a little uncomfortable.
What is wrong with everybody? Who cares? Why are people going out of their way to A, make fun of her about her book sales, and then 2, make fun of her about the way she chooses to take a picture? I do all kinds of weird stuff. I mean, I don't put it online because I'm like a nobody, but like, I might take a picture with like something, you know what I mean? Like, who knows? People do stuff. Like maybe she was like, oh, this would be a good idea, like my father, I can honor him. I mean, who knows what's going through somebody's head, right? Why do we have to immediately jump to, oh, she's just doing this for attention or whatever, But
she has strategically placed her new book, Bad Republican, at her father's gravesite. This was a photo op. It was a means to still use her father's name to sell books and say, oh, well, you should buy this book because don't you forget, my dad is.
Why is she not allowed to use her father's? It's her father. It's her. Woman, you are using Charlie Kirk's death to make millions. And what is it? She's made like $70 million since he died, and across all platforms and all products. Lady Candace, at least this is her actual father. Oh my God.
Is John McCain. I think this is so tasteless and so crass. I could never imagine doing this in a million years. And I view her as an example of somebody who is a toxic woman. She's a toxic woman. She treats other people poorly. She believes that she's allowed to be in the room on the basis, as I said earlier, of her father's accomplishments. And that just isn't the way that.
Okay, so we just watched a video of Meghan McCain. Now, I don't watch her shows. Obviously, I don't, not that I hate her or anything, but she's not my cup of tea or whatever. But we just watched her show, and she seemed like a kind, reasonable person. On her show at least, and then see how Candace is on her shows that we've been reviewing and that we've been going through. Yet Meghan McCain is toxic and she only thinks she's allowed in the space because because of who her father was. Excuse me? Who are you to say who can be in what space and who can have a show and who can't have a show? I mean, who are you? Why are you allowed to have a space? You don't even have a famous father. Why are you around? People could say the same thing back, which of course I wouldn't do that. But like, I'm just saying, people are allowed to make YouTube shows. It's called YouTube. You can have a YouTube show wherever you want. She was on The View. Why is she not allowed to do that? I don't know.
Work. So, Meghan, to you, I am happy to let this be filmed now that you've had me blocked. But I think that if there's any person that has given evidence of being a conservative charlatan, it's you, it's your entire career. And I will not accept it. I will not accept you attacking various conservatives, pretending that you have a right to do that on the basis of who your father was and how he lived.
The nerve of this woman to say all that. To say all that about another person, another woman. I mean, maybe McCain does do that stuff. I don't know. But like, pot kettle black thing? What's that saying? You guys will tell me in the comments. People really like correcting me in the comments, which is fine. I'm fine with it, but like, people don't like how I pronounce Kanye. Did I say it right that time? It's a 50-50 chance. Some people don't like my voice, which is fine. I don't like my voice either. Some people point out that I misread things when I read them, and they like to point out and so that the context can be known. So but that's fine. Everybody can keep correcting me. Everybody's been very kind. Okay, so let's go. Okay, so now I want to move into the Steven Crowder incident. Okay, and that's what the rest of the show is going to be about. We are not going to be reading House and Habit during this episode. We didn't in the last one either, because where we are at in the series doesn't really fit into here, but it'll fit in when we get farther down the road in the series. So I'm kind of saving that for when it's relevant. So we will be getting back to the article. I just want to let you guys know that series. So okay, so let me read to you about the feud that went on with Crowder. The primary public incident where Candace Owens was accused of doing something to Steven Crowder was their April 2023 feud, centered on Crowder's divorce announcement and his claim that Owens and possibly the Daily Wire associates tried to extort him by threatening to leak embarrassing personal details about his marriage. This stemmed from an earlier spat and escalated dramatically with videos, tweets, legal threats, and the release of private footage. There have been ongoing mutual criticisms since, especially Crowder targeting Owens in 2025, but no equivalent major new incident where Owens specifically targeted Crowder in the same way. Here's a complete chronological breakdown based on public statements, videos, and reporting. Okay, so background. January 2023 Daily Wire feud. In January 2023, Crowder publicly rejected a reported $50 million offer to join the Daily Wire, where Owens was a host. He called it a slave contract that would impose big tech-style censorship. He released a recorded call with Daily Wire CEO Jeremy Boring to back this up. This sparked a broader right-wing media fight with Ben Shapiro and the Daily Wire. Owens defended her employer, so she's sort of like their attack dog. In January 2023 episode of her Daily Wire show, she criticized Crowder's public complaints as a total B move and hinted at deeper personal problems. Steven has a lot going on, I guess is the best way to say it. He has a lot going on, and that should be clear because people don't do stuff like this if there's not a lot going on in their life. Over the weekend, I was given a lot more information regarding Steven Crowder. I am unsure at this moment if it is my place to say more than that. Maybe if I feel in further defense, something should be said. She also urged prayers for him, saying he needed to lean into his faith and that more information will come out. Crowder later cited these comments and alleged private demands and threats as evidence of extortion. So we are, of course, going to we're going to listen to some videos about this whole situation like we've been doing, but just to clarify what's going on there. Steven Crowder got upset about an offer he was given by the Daily Wire when he left Blaze. So he was working at the Blaze, he left Blaze. The Daily Wire came to him with an offer to contract him to work for the Daily Wire, and he was upset with the offer amount, and he was upset with the some of the details in the actual contract. So, and at first glance, the way that it sounds, like people were making it sound like Steven Crowder was being ridiculous, but in fact, he actually wasn't, because that $50 million over a 4 year, it was for a 4 year term, and he had to pay for all of his own employees and staff, and his production studio was all coming out of like his pay. And then he would get all these deductions, and the big tech thing was really worrisome for him too, because he was like, well, now I have to adhere to those standards, and they were a really big problem for conservatives who were getting kicked off of everything during this time. And if you remember, a lot of people that I watched and a lot of people I really liked got kicked off of YouTube and other platforms, but they didn't ever kick off the Daily Wire or any of those people, right? Anyway, also the $50 million thing, like Candace and others made it seem like, oh my gosh, he's turning down a $50 million contract. Well, as you can see, going on your own, you can make quite a bit in 1 year. And we're talking about like 4 years, I believe, was the contract. So like Candace Owens' just show, she just made $69 million in a couple of months, right? So it actually was sort of a low ball, especially for somebody like Steven Crowder. So, but they couldn't probably afford more than that. I don't know. I kind of can see both sides of the whole situation, right? But either way, I don't know why Candace Owens had to insert herself into it, right? Like it didn't really have anything to do with her. You know what I mean? So, but she inserted herself big time. And then what he's talking about there with the extortion and the threats was she went on her show, and then she made those little comments there saying he's got a lot going on in his life. Nobody that acts like this doesn't have a lot going on in their life. Just like she did with Tim Pool recently, when she tried to say he's got something going on in his life with his family if he's getting this angry when he got mad, when he lost it on Candace, right? So she's implying some stuff, but she has information that was given to her about the fact that he was going through a divorce, which was not public. And there were videos of like a Ring video camera, which this does look really badly on Steven Crowder. Those videos were pretty rough, like the way he was talking to his wife and everything. But people, do stuff like that sometimes. That doesn't mean that they're necessarily the worst person in the world. They probably had not been getting along for quite some time, which is why they were getting a divorce, right? This happens every day. It's not anybody's business that needs to be going around making, it's just, do you see what I'm saying? Okay, so let's go look at some stuff I have about that. Actually, I still have some more stuff to read here, so let's do that first. Okay, so Crowder framed this as Owens or allies weaponizing knowledge of his divorce to silence his criticisms. Owens released a video titled "Steven Crowder Accused Me of Extortion." She called the claim patently insane, denied any threats or knowledge of demands, and said she had contacted a defamation lawyer. Oh, well, isn't that rich? I've contacted a defamation lawyer, and I am sending Steven Crowder a cease and desist. I am going to demand a full-throated extract. Wow. Wow. On X, she posted, "Steven Crowder's accusing me of extortion is so patently insane that it honestly makes me question how there is still people who cannot see how thoroughly undone he has become. This is not stable behavior. He is a man on a spiral, outright bizarre and concerning." She then added that no one at the Daily Wire had commented on Crowder since January and accused him of using the drama to deflect from other issues. She invited Crowder's ex-wife Hillary onto her show to talk about what is actually going on. Oh my gosh. Owens maintained she never threatened anyone and that her January remarks were not about extortion. Escalation, Ring camera video, and Owens' further comments. Crowder's ex-wife's family released a statement accusing him of years of mentally and emotionally abusive behavior. They claimed Hillary tried to save the marriage for the children, that Crowder was absent for his twins' birth and moved out and cut her off financially. They also released Ring camera footage of their home of Crowder berating a heavily pregnant Hillary. In it, he forbids her from using their car. because she refused to do wifely things, demanded she wear gloves for dog medicine, which she feared was toxic while pregnant, and says things like, the only way out of this is discipline and respect. I don't love you, and watch it, effing watch it. After she says your abuse is sick. Okay. Okay, so like I said earlier, that video was very hard to watch, and it was, in my opinion, abusive. So, but I feel like they were going through a lot. They had not been getting along for a really long time. And as most of us probably know, there are just people in your life that you don't get along with. I mean, I'm sure we've all been there before, at least most of us, where you'll be in a relationship that is just all around toxic and not good. And then that same person you're in a relationship with can get in a relationship with another person and their relationship is fine. And then you can move on and be in a relationship that's fine. So I feel like that's what really was going on there with them. Like they just didn't get along well together. And he was not dealing with it well at all. And who knows what she would do. I mean, it's a one-sided ring camera footage. So I didn't like that. And I kind of was, not happy about that video at all. I didn't feel like it was proper behavior from him at all. But I didn't hold it against him because, like I said, I kind of like, until if it was a thing that kept repeating, like I believe he is now in another relationship and everything seems to be fine. So if it was like a thing where he kept having abuse allegations coming out against him, then that would be like one thing. But I feel like their relationship just wasn't working out with them being together and they moved on. And so that's good. Owens retweeted the video and wrote, the behavior of monsters. There's no justification. Change my mind. She also posted listing names, including Hillary Crowder, and asked how many unrelated parties can tell you someone is a monster before people believe it. Crowder responded on X that broken marriages are ugly and said he would unseal court documents, financial, mental health records, etc. to defend himself. He did not directly address the video. Legal back and forth. Owens sent Crowder a cease and desist letter demanding a retraction. Crowder's lawyer replied that Owens had no grounds for defamation, calling Crowder's statements opinions, not accusations of literal crimes. Owens told media Crowder knew he was lying. No lawsuits were filed or reported as proceeding from this. The feud made divorce trend and drew widespread commentary left and right. It damaged Crowder's image in some circles due to the abuse video, which Owens amplified but did not leak. No reconciliation. They remained public rivals. Later developments involving Crowder targeting Owens. So in December 2025, Crowder leaked what he claimed was an internal Daily Wire video of Owens being fired or terminated. So yeah, we will get into all that in a different video. Let's go to what I have on that. Okay, so this is when she appeared on Timcast to go crazy over the Crowder issue. So let's see this.
Show I was talking about making a video game and like open source rules or something.
Oh, I hope people heard it.
It's like hot mic. Tim's talking about making a game.
I was talking about my hair sticking up.
Talk about your hair sticking up. Yeah, I think that's what popped up.
That's embarrassing.
Is it?
Gosh, it's like, oh, hot mic.
So Stephen Crowder put out a response to Jeremy Boring's response. Let me give the gist. You've got two juggernauts in independent anti-establishment / conservative media space. Crowder is accusing the Daily Wire. The Daily Wire's co-CEO Jeremy Boring issued a response. Stephen Crowder just issued another response, and the drama is heating up. And in this response, Crowder posted clips of a phone call he had with Jeremy Boring, which is now just lighting up the drama even more because you've got some people saying they don't like what Jeremy said, but a lot of people pointing out that, why did Stephen record Jeremy Boring's phone call in the first place? It's like, that's kind of a, I don't know, man. People are not happy that happened. So we're going to talk about all this.
Okay, and so also remember the context of Candace Owens recording her friend Nicole Arbour's phone calls.
And this is also lighting up in mainstream press. It's like the big con, the drama between Stephen Crowder and the Daily Wire. And it's convenient for us that right after the speakers vote, we're like, man, there's no news. And all of a sudden, this drama
Hold
happens.
my beer.
Yeah, hold my beer. Joining us tonight to talk about this and so much more is Candace Owens.
Hello. It's lovely to be back here.
So everybody knows who you are, but I guess you just got to introduce yourself anyway.
My name is Candace Owens, just as he said. I would like to confirm that statement.
Tell me more.
I would like to also first say that this was not planned, a part of this thing that blew up this week. We booked me on for this exact night before the end of last year. So it just happened to be that I am on when all of this drama is unfolding with the Daily Wire and Stephen Crowder. This is not a plot.
They don't know are you on contract with the Daily Wire? Is that how it is? You employee with the Daily Wire?
I'm not an employee. I am contracted. I do my show on my podcast show 5 days a week on the Daily Wire. And I've now been doing that for almost 3 years, I think, 2 to 3 years. Yeah.
Cool, right on. Well, we definitely got to talk about the Crowder stuff because before we went live, you were just going off about all this stuff and there's a lot to say. So we'll get into that. We got Luke hanging out.
Hey guys, my name is Luke Radowski here of WeAreChange.org, and the World Economic Forum hates your freedom. I love my freedom and I value it, especially in this field with all the crazy stuff happening right now. I've been independent since day one. I'm still independent right now at all costs, and that's why I made this shirt that reads, I tested positive for freedom, which you could exclusively get and support me at the same time on thebestpoliticalshirts.com. Because you do, that's why I'm here. Thank you again so much for having me.
Ian Crossland from IanCrossland.net. What's up, everybody? Candace, great to see you again. Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure.
Let's get down through this, Serge.
Yeah, I'm at Serge.com. Always happy to see you. It's going to be a good episode, so let's go.
All right, so here's the first story that we have, and this one's going to get spicy. We got this video clip from Stephen Crowder titled, I Didn't Want to Do This. Crowder has issued a response to Jeremy Boring's response. In it, Stephen Crowder releases some audio, notably, let me see if I can play this. Do we have the audio properly set up?
Yep.
Here we go. We'll play the beginning.
They don't get deals that
They can be wage slaves for a little bit. Come over and make a salary and grow their brand. They can be wage slaves for a little bit. They can be wage slaves for a little bit.
God bless the dock boy. Those things are worth like $5,000 now. It's an expensive gag.
That is kind of crazy. I didn't realize they were so expensive.
Yeah.
All right.
Before YouTube, that was how I used to do it.
This is a tough one. Stephen's not here to defend himself, but Candace is here to give her perspective on this. So I'll just throw it to you and give me your thoughts on his response and what happened with the Daily Wire, because I know you got a lot to say.
I do have a lot to say about this because obviously the situation impacted me and it impacted all of the other hosts on the Daily Wire. So first of all, I feel like I just want to say this, which is that I have never once, I've been with Daily Wire 2 to 3 years now. You have never once heard me.
So I'm a little confused how, because the narrative that she spins here is that this somehow affected her and other commentators at the Daily Wire. And she makes it seem like he was attacking them somehow with what he was saying about his contract, which is just bizarre because in no way should it affect them or should it have any kind of a negative effect on them at all. They're already hired there or whatever, but it would affect people coming in to know what was going on with the contracting, right? It would give people information about, like, a lot of people don't know these things, and we're going to get into that as well. But to say that it somehow affected them negatively is just silly. Like, as if he was doing this to attack them.
Come out to defend the Daily Wire on anything. This is not the first time Daily Wire has been in a firestorm or had some beef that's gone on, whether it's for Ben or Matt or Michael that's gone on the last 3 years. I tend to stay very much in my lane. As I mentioned before, I'm not employed with Daily Wire. I'm not required to come out and defend them. And I'm usually just not interested in these beefs that seem to be so fickle. They last for a day and then they go away. And it's probably the reason why, for whatever, doesn't really matter what anybody thinks about me, I have a good relationship with pretty much everybody. Like, there's no one that I can't be invited and be in the same room with. Everybody sort of hates each other, but Alex Jones has a good opinion of me. Everyone from Alex Jones to Ben Shapiro, Paul Joseph Watson, Mike Cernovich is somebody that I call and ask for advice from time to time, Jack Posobiec. Like, I'm a kind of person that judges people based on how they treat people, right? I'm not interested in dabbling in this nonsense from time to time that appears and then goes away and ebbs and flows. This situation, though, was different because basically Stephen Crowder decided to launch a war and didn't really care who got hit, with the shrapnel, right? He comes out, he makes this glorious video, which it's shocking to me that people cannot see the amount of acting that is going into this. We all understand he's a childhood actor. I love that show, Arthur. He was the brain. Like, he is an actor. At the end of the day, he's an actor. It's also why he's so entertaining when it comes to politics. He's a talented person, but that people cannot discern the amount of acting that has gone on in this is stunning to me. I don't know where people's discernment, what's going on with discernment, when you can't just spiritually discern that, this feels a little weird, right? You're recording conversations with someone that you have told us you are friends with forever. Oh, and by the way, at the end of you saying that you're just trying to do the right thing, you're also saying, I'm going to launch my own thing, right? So just when I first saw the first video that he dropped, obviously I'm not privy to negotiations that happen at the Daily Wire. I had no idea they were negotiating with Stephen Crowder. Again, not my business. I came into work one day, suddenly Brett Cooper was there. Not my business. I don't know who they're hiring. I don't own the company, right? But what I started getting was after I had dropped my podcast in the comment section, everyone was basically tearing me apart, being like, blink twice if you need help, for saying like I'm a hostage situation, or saying, what if you don't say anything about Stephen Crowder, you're a fraud, just like suddenly you're a fraud. So I go and I watch this video, and just like everybody else watching it live, his first video, your instincts are like, whoa, he's throwing some bombs, he's calling it big con, he's saying essentially that we are enslaved by these contract terms. He actually uses the term enslavement. If you don't want to be a slave, you maybe come work with him and figure it out for all of us. Like, you're a hero, you're a martyr. And because I was getting so many comments, the first thing I did was that I messaged my EP and I said, we have to cover this tomorrow on the show, because now everyone thinks I'm a fraud and they think that I've signed with fraudulent terms or slave-like terms, and that's so totally unfair to me. So my interest in this is that it hit me and it hit everybody else at Daily Wire, and it was unfair.
Do you, I don't know, you don't have to answer this, I guess, but do you have a similar contract?
There are certain terms I recognize, so I immediately was Daily Wire. So, for example, the fee reduction if you miss a day of work, right? Like, if you miss a day of work, we are paying for X amount of episodes, and this is a steep amount if you miss one day of work. When you first see that, when I first received a contract from Daily Wire, I went, that's a shocking number to see. Then you have to calculate, and by the way, mine was not this. I want to be very clear. I don't have a $50 million contract. If there's anything I should be upset about, it's that they were going to pay that much to Steven Crowder, right? I need to go renegotiate my contract. But so you see it, and it's shocking, and then you read under, which is what he did not include, and he says, so if I get hit by a car, like I'm just going to $100,000 a day. He didn't tell you how much he made. You don't know what $100,000 means unless you can see what were they offering him, and you can calculate yourselves. Okay, so what they're basically saying is that we're paying you $63,000 a day. You know what I'm saying? He purposely like excluded right beneath it that says that actually it's pro rata if in event of an emergency. That's a very significant thing that would allow people not to be enraged at seeing this.
Yeah, just to clarify, when Jeremy released his video, he showed the additional portion that said in the event of temporary disability, they prorate you, there's no penalty. And then we talked about this last night. I said the $100,000 seems punitive. I think you mentioned, yeah, but what about Daily Wire's cost? I said, oh yeah, fair point.
DC Drano did, and that's exactly right. Yeah. They have all of these contracts that exist. It's very easy to understand. We're paying you, here's $100,000. We're paying you $63,000 for the content. They also have a bunch of contracts everybody's working on the show. So for example, my EP, she's contracted. I don't know what a contract says, and maybe it says that no matter what, she is guaranteed this amount of money. So if I magically call out, they still have to pay her. They still have to pay the camera guy. Maybe the advertising is punitive. If you didn't give us the content, the advertisers maybe then say, okay, you.
But with Steven Crowder, he already had his own setup and his own team that he was paying, and that he would still have to be paying and maintaining, etc.
Why actually pay us $5,000 if Candace doesn't read ads on that day? You don't know when you have an organization this big what everybody's contracts are. So I assume it's $60,000, and then they're baking in an extra $38,000 to cover their asses to pay everybody else that maybe showed up for work that day.
But Jeremy did say punitive because he said, well, you're right about the costs all around it, but he basically said one circumstance is you're choosing not to work, and one is you're unable to work.
Right.
If you're unable, we get it. We'll just prorate based on the lost day. But he also said something interesting that you could make up that day by banking it at any time.
Right. So I do that, by the way. I do that, and that's why it's so annoying. So I see these things. It's to people who don't know how this works. First and foremost, it's a term sheet. He was never given a contract. It was a term sheet. It's essentially a starting conversation. Here's what we have in mind. Everything's baked in. Some things literally don't make sense. Like in my term sheet, it said, we whatever about they wanted access to my Snapchat. I don't have Snapchat. They wanted access to my Rumble. I don't have Rumble. They don't have access. It's literally just like here's something so we can get the conversation started. And really, the thing you need to pay attention to is like this is the money, and then of course our lawyer's gonna go back and say this makes entirely no sense. This makes entirely no sense. So then you get to personalize it, so to speak, right? When you say, okay, well this thing makes me nervous because okay, what if it's not me that's sick, but my son? I have 2 kids, right? What if my son breaks his leg and I'm not gonna not leave his side? So I have to then say I need to personalize this term sheet, and that is what the contract is then for. If you come to some agreement that this is what we're gonna work on, right? This is what we're going to negotiate in good faith, right? So he first and foremost lied by saying it was a contract. He lied by omission by not saying how much money, so people couldn't calculate. Okay, really, how punitive is that $100,000? Not that much. And you consider that there's a bunch of costs that go into producing a show, and people that they may have paid, editors. In this case, he produces his own show, but editors, writers, no matter what, the Daily Wire has to see that package and do something to it. So, and by the way, like I said, we know it's at least standard. So it's not because they're trying to hit Steven Crowder. They've given this to all of us. And your job then, if you're a big boy, right? If you can put on your big boy pants, is to go to your lawyer and to say, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. This makes no sense. Negotiate. Now, if you are a young talent that was discovered on YouTube, as I was way back in the day, who comes from no money, as I was way back in the day, this could be like unfair because I can't afford a lawyer to go through line by line of this and redline this. That is not the circumstance for Steven Crowder. He's already told us he's got so much money, he's more successful, and he doesn't need the money, blah, blah, blah. So why don't you just hire a lawyer?
But that's what he said in the rebuttal. Yeah, it's not about me. It's about the Daily Wire signing new upcoming young people to these terms, and they don't.
And in that capacity, he hits Brett Cooper, right? Now he's basically, so who is a young upcoming talent that got signed with the, there's only.
How does he hit her? Like, she already works there. That's not what he's talking about at all.
5 hosts of shows on the Daily Wire. I mean, so you're talking about Matt Walsh? No, he's not young upcoming talent that's just been signed. You're talking about Michael Knowles? No, he's not young upcoming. You're not talking about Candace Owens. I don't think we would say Andrew Klavan is young upcoming talent. So you're talking about Brett Cooper. That's insulting to Brett Cooper. You have no idea what he's just saying shit, right? And it's not like he's reached out to us and said, hey, like I'm doing this for all of us. Like it's not he reached out independently to Daily Wire host and been like, are you dealing with these egregious terms? No, he is doing this purely. Let's not even try to make this anything but a selfish act that was to benefit Steven Crowder, who wants to launch his own network. Because, and by the way, and I say this is the most important part of this, and nobody is talking about this. He receives the term sheet, okay, and he thinks it's so egregious that he's got to make this video 4 months later, right? I don't know what happened in those 4 months after they started negotiating. I guess Steven Crowder woke up, new year, new me. I hate the Daily Wire, so I'm going to go after them. He thinks it's so egregious. The first thing he does is counteroffer and say, let's start talking about 140 million, okay? So if it was so outrageous, why did he go back to them and say, no, actually, we can have this conversation, but let's start talking about 140 million, right? It was only when the Daily Wire then turned that down that the term sheet became so egregious that he had to do something about it.
I'll just add real quick to everybody. Steven Crowder is coming on the show on Monday. I know he's not here to defend himself.
Did you speak to him? Because he might have recorded your conversation, so you might want to talk about what the hell did you say to him.
I mean, yeah, my view is I was kind of surprised to hear that Steven recorded the phone call with Jeremy because I don't know why you would.
Oh, by the way, it should be mentioned, that conversation, so they stopped negotiating completely, which Jeremy made clear in his video. This was over. He doesn't know where this is coming from because this conversation stopped. When Steven Crowder then came back with a counter term sheet offer of a glorious $140 million over X amount of years, and they said, we just can't do this, right? Then he sat and he stewed, and he said nothing until 1 week ago. He reaches out to Jeremy, and he asks him to talk on the phone. And that was 1 week ago. That is the conversation that you guys are all hearing that he is playing right now. So he plotted this. This is a plot line. He planned to then record him to go back and to make this video. If he had recorded this way back during negotiations, maybe you could say there was no plot. Why did he reach out to Jeremy exactly 1 week ago when they hadn't discussed anything pertaining to the contract and they said no one walked away last year around October, November? And then suddenly in January, he reaches out 1 week ago and says, hey, can we get on the phone? And he decides maybe I should record this. No, it's because he realized he had nowhere left to go. And his next plot in this storyline, in this terrible childhood acting he's doing right now, was, okay, I have to do my own thing now. And so I need to drum up some drama to get everybody that I know to believe that I'm a martyr for our beliefs and they should.
See how she's bringing in the childhood actor acting to bring in the framing to discredit him because he was a child actor. So like anything he says now or does is, not to be believed because he was a childhood actor. See how she does that kind of stuff?
Dump their subscriptions to everybody else that's part of BigCon and join the mug club. How can people not see? I mean, the writing is just so on the wall.
The fact that he recorded Jeremy says that he did plan. Look, I'm not here to impugn his honor. I think you're absolutely entitled to your view, having working with the Daily Wire and everything you've seen. But it does suggest that he knew he was calling Jeremy for this reason. I think Crowder is. I don't know if I think it might be too far for me to believe that Crowder is trying to do this to pull subscribers from Daily Wire or make more money for himself, because the dude already makes a lot of money.
But he does not. He thinks that he is worthy of $140 million a year. Do you believe that Steven Crowder right now is making $140 million a year?
I bet he could.
You bet he could.
Absolutely.
You bet he could. But how's he got to do that? How's he got to start that? He just had a couple of kids. How's he got to start that? You launch a war and the conservative.
Did you hear Tim Pool there? I bet he could. And that was the point of everybody saying that the $50 million over 4 years is ridiculous. But Tim Pool knows that he can, on his own, do that. He knows. Because Tim Pool is very smart.
Movement, and you move people away from a business that you want to model. I don't know who's modeling who, I don't know who started this first, but you basically say, I'm not them, come with me. And that's exactly what he's doing. Call a spade a spade. Call a spade a spade, okay? This was a plot line, and that annoys me because he dragged me into this plot line, okay? He dragged us all into this plot line. He's basically saying, at one point in his video, this is what really set me off. He's like, and so you might be noticing that a lot of these people, their viewpoints are sanitized, and this is why. This contract, this is why. Essentially saying that Candace is controlled, Matt Walsh is controlled, Michael Knowles is controlled, Brett Cooper is controlled.
Nobody thought that. You could apparently do whatever you wanted and all this unethical stuff the whole time you worked there, apparently.
Well, and now we know why, guys, because I have this contract, which I've conveniently excerpted portions that could allow you to discern for yourself. But it's actually not that unreasonable as a starter conversation, which is what a term sheet is, right? And instead, I'm just going to smear all these people that are associated with the Wire. And that's why I'm pissed off. That's why I'm pissed off, because I then was fielding comments calling me a fraud because they thought that I agreed to these terms and that my voice was being controlled.
I told Steven, I said, I think ideologically, I understand his gripe with the contracts, and I agree with the contracts. We don't do contracts the way the Daily Wire does.
There was no contract. I just want to say that one more time.
Right. So contract, different term. Terms. I don't do terms the way the Daily Wire does. I also am, the way it's like the Joe Rogan story I often tell, that he booted me from his show twice, and I didn't get mad at him. I was like, well, I'm kind of pissed off that he booted me twice, like happened twice, and I fled to LA. But he doesn't owe me any favors. I'm not going to rag on Joe Rogan because he didn't do me a favor. If I was on his show, it'd be really great for me. It didn't work out. I'm going to carry on with my life and my business. I've negotiated with the Daily Wire. We couldn't figure out something that works. We're very different in that sense. And I said, well, it was nice hanging out, and let's work on stuff in the future, and we'll make awesome stuff. I told Steven, I said, I think that the Daily Wire is a massive net positive, especially with what is a woman. I mean, that was a massive cultural force that got even mainstream, moderate lefty types to be like, oh yeah, I've seen that, and start this conversation. Then you did the BLM documentary, of course, that had, I don't think it was nearly as big as Was a Woman, but certainly had a cultural response. These things are tremendous. And so my attitude is like, look, I don't like the contracts of, they're very business-like, very entertainment industry. I understand that Daily Wire does it. If someone came to me and said, we're going to get investors, we're going to get some prominent conservative voices, and we're going to launch a company that rivals Disney, I'd be like, man, I don't like Disney. And they'll go, yeah, but it will be America-loving, independently minded, meritocratic. I'll say, oh, I'll take it over Disney any day. And then I'll go and do my thing that I think should be the way I want it to be. And I'm not going to be mad at the Daily Wire for the Daily Wire doing a thing.
Yeah, but what you're describing first and foremost are the free markets, right? If you don't like it somewhere, leave. I thought we were conservative. I thought that's what we were trying to preserve, right? A free market mentality. If Daily Wire is so awful, right, and so predatory and treating their talent so horrifically, they'd have no talent, right? Then literally, Steven Crowder wouldn't have to launch a war. He just have to launch an alternative business with better contracts. People would leave willingly. They would say, there's more money there, there's better treatment, I'm leaving. That's how the free markets work, right? Because he did not feel, maybe he's feeling a little insecure. He thought that he was a free agent. He feels like he's Tom Brady. Everyone's going to make me all these offers, and he thought it came in extremely low. Tom Brady. I'm Tom Brady. Why am I getting offered $50 million? I should be offered $140 million. And the team says, no, thank you, Tom Brady. And then he goes, well, I'm nothing Tom Brady. Well, the truth is, I think Steven Crowder was feeling insecure. I think he was reeling after those negotiations. I think there are very few conservative networks that can offer him that money. He's actually, he's burned a few bridges, right? Fox News, he's burned a bridge. He's burned a bridge with the Blaze. How many other companies in the conservative movement does he think can reasonably afford to pay him what he thinks he's worth, right? The Daily Wire. So when he was done, I think that he was feeling tremendously insecure, right? When those negotiations failed in October or November, he stewed on it in November, stewed on it in December, came up in January and decided, okay, I'm going to have to launch my own outfit. I'm going to go after the Daily Wire. And his plot line included calling Jeremy Boring, catching him on camera. We only have seen a piece of this conversation. Jeremy has already tweeted that he called him like, hey, let's catch up. And now he was like, let's talk about the kids and Christmas. They were friends, very close friends. Okay. Steven Crowder has said they were friends, not colleagues, not associates, not, like I would say me and Matt Walsh and we're associates, but friends. He called his friends to talk about Christmas and his kids and said he recorded him and then dropped that recording a week later, pretending that he was doing this to be a martyr. I just don't see how people don't realize this guy is a fundamentally bad person. I don't understand how this is even a debate.
The phone call thing's rough. I mean,
Who records the friends? With friends like these, who needs enemies? Who needs the left when we've got friends like these in the conservative movement?
but the other thing too is, I say this about Project Veritas. I think Veritas should release the raw when they do this stuff. Like, there's a lot of stuff that Veritas has done that's been very, very important. But I'm often like, it could quash a lot of these arguments about deceptive editing if you just say, like, we editorialized, here's the raw footage you can see for yourself, minus private information if there's like addresses or phone numbers. In this context, I'm really not a fan of snippets being released. Because it's like, okay, well, what led up to that moment? Like,
when he said wage slaves, we don't know the context of. It sounds to me like he was potentially asking a question about, well, do you do this, with all your time? He's like, well, this is different. You're a big person coming in, and where we don't have to put as much money behind you, so we're concerned that you're going to have an ad drop. If you're a new person, you're saying you come to Daily Wire, and by this is completely a guess. I have no idea. You're coming to Daily Wire, and you're like, hey, I want to try this thing. Can you make my name bigger? Essentially, you're saying like, here are the wages we're going to pay you. You're going to work your ass off. You know what I mean? And you have the benefit of having the entire Daily Wire network behind you. I think he was probably trying to describe, again, I have no idea, the different mentality between getting talent like Steven Crowder and trying to get him in a contract versus getting talent that's new and is looking.
If you have no idea, then why are you talking about it? Why are you talking about it if you have no idea?
Come to Daily Wire because they basically absorb all the benefit. Again, I don't know, but
it is exactly what
that's
saying.
Probably what he was saying.
Yeah,
and now he excerpted wage slaves as if he was these slaves that are working for me. I mean, it's a colloquialism. You know what I mean? He's using that term not seriously, but it allows him to play that excerpt to make it sound like this is how the Daily Wire treats their employees. I mean, this is horrible stuff that he's doing with Daily Wire.
Jeremy was saying that if a new person with no audience comes to Daily Wire, they're basically going to put them on a contract with a wage, and then they're going to own all the content that they say they're going to own. And then when the person's done off the contract, they can go continue to be famous and successful, although Daily Wire will still own the stuff that they paid for to get produced while that person was there. And he used the term wage slave. Now, I'm with you. I don't think the words themselves are that big of a deal.
No, but he wanted to come across like a big idea, like it's a very big deal because he's relying on business ignorance. He keeps doing this. He keeps relying on business ignorance, and he's appealing. And this is literally a socialist tactic. He's appealing to the Amazon employees who want to stick it to the man, and then they boycott and they picket because they're not getting paid $50,000 an hour and being treated to ice cream once a week. He's appealing to people that he's like, okay, think of yourself as an employee, not as a business person, right? This is a business person mindset. This is what I get from this conversation. And obviously, I'm privy to these talks with Jeremy and Caleb. This is who I negotiate my contracts with. And there have literally been times because I'm a big girl, and I sit with them where I say, there's no way I'm signing this line. They move an inch this way, I move an inch that way. They move an inch this way. And then here we are. We meet here in the middle where we all feel like this is a good contract and nobody's a slave, right? Because in order to sign a contract, if you fully comprehend it, you're not a slave. You're just not a slave.
Something I think about Jeremy personally, and not too relevant, but I think he enjoys negotiating.
I think
so. If you want to work at Daily Wire, you got to know that going into it. Jeremy enjoys negotiating.
I want to read a super chat real quick because this is an important point. IDG says Daily Wire's agenda: make profit. Crowder's agenda: saving American experiment. Exhibit: JBP deletes tweet supporting Crowder. Exhibit B: your poll. I'll tell you what I think. I don't completely disagree with that. I think the Daily Wire is a machine. I think the Daily Wire is a machine that is not the ideological system that I would personally build. We do things very differently here. The people who are here are on salary with no terms. Like if Pop Culture Crisis got banned,
this is a small company. That's how it is when you work for me. I have a company too, a small company where we have 7 employees, and it's familial. You see, Savannah's downstairs. We get to hang out and do fun things for a small company. If we grew and we suddenly had 400 employees, things have to get a lot more serious and professional.
That's true, but and I've talked to Jeremy a lot about this, and so it may just be we're small, and then he's like, when you get bigger, man, you're going to run into these things. And I'm like, maybe, but here's my thing. I like the Daily Wire. I think the Daily Wire is. I think Jeremy and everybody else involved, and Jeremy's one who made the video, are seeking to make money and use that money and build more and make more money. If the Daily Wire succeeds and makes money and then makes more movies and makes more documentaries, that means we're going to get more What is a Woman? It means we're going to get more, Gina Carano's. It means Hollywood will be weakened. It means as Hollywood falls from the hill, a machine that actually, at least to some degree, shares our values will be there. It may be, in your opinion, a cold, faceless machine, but at least the cold, faceless machine is saying meritocracy. I'll be like, okay, well.
Well, LOL to anyone who thinks that Steven Crowder is not doing this to make money. I just have to outwardly laugh. He's the person in a disguise. He's the wolf in sheep's clothing, right? He's like, I'm here because I care about all of you. That's why I'm recording my friend and doing this crappy thing where I literally could have just said, no, I don't like those terms, and then said to everybody, I'm starting my own outfit. Fair. You walk away all the time. I have walked away. I had an offer from the Blaze. It didn't work for me. I didn't need to piece apart the contract. I love those guys. I think Tyler is amazing. This is what I'm saying. People need to stop thinking that he is some knight in shining armor. He's not. He's not a knight in shining armor. And if you can't see that, watch this video because I think his acting is never more apparent. Even the titles. I didn't want to do this. Oh, really? Then why the hell did you record him? What were you doing that for? Do you think you were going to go to court?
Point.
Or do you think you're going to go to court? Because that's the only reason you record someone. You'd be like, I don't trust my ex-wife. Pardon my language, okay? I don't trust my ex-wife, so I'm going to record this phone call for safety, right? You record it because you're nervous that there's going to be a court hearing or the police are going to find out and you've got to back up what you said, okay? Why are you recording your friend? If not because you think it's going to go to court. Oh, because you think it's going to go to public and you're doing it intentionally because you know you're about to start a war. People, please use your common sense. It's not even because I work for Daily Wire. It's because he personally he's lying and he insulted me. And during his lying campaign, he's still lying. He even said something in this video where he's like, now they're sending out their. No. If you're going to aim and you're going to hit somebody with shrapnel and it's going to be me, you better aim correctly because I don't like shit like this, okay? I have been quiet. I know Steven Crowder treats people like absolute trash. It's a known thing in the conservative movement. Ask anybody that works at the Blaze. Any person who's ever had a show on the Blaze, how Steven Crowder treats people. By the way, you want to talk about contract negotiations? Why doesn't somebody reach out to Not Gay Jared, right? Who used to be with Steven Crowder and figure out why he can't speak? Why doesn't Steven Crowder release Not Gay Jared from his NDA? I don't like shit like this. That's all I'm saying. I don't like it.
I want both Daily Wire and Crowder to succeed.
Should do a movie.
That's what we all wanted. Who cares?
I want to do a buddy cop movie. Yeah, something like Lethal Weapon, man. Me and Steve. It's going to be crazy.
Luke's thinking, I don't know.
Straight man.
It's just bad business. It's
I'm
just
like,
bad
this is like,
business.
whoa, you know, WWE.
Let me explain. I think
and I'm like, I personally just, you know, I personally don't care, to be honest.
I want to try and like.
I want to talk about the globalists.
We will.
And how taxation.
He's like, I got my notes.
I want to talk about
We will.
taxation theft. Politicians are criminals.
All right, let's do drama first.
Well,
I think that what happened, Steve. Well, first of all, why was he recording? I think that's fair question, but doesn't need to be answered. In Texas, it's legal to record. It's a one-party consent state. So it's like saying, why is he open carrying a gun? Because he's planning to shoot someone. Like, you don't know why he's got a gun. You don't know why he's recording, and it really doesn't matter.
But recording is the action. Like, if he had a tape recorder when he made the phone call and didn't record, I'd say that argument is comparable, right?
For all I know, everyone in Texas is recording every conversation at every moment, and they have a right to do that, and maybe even a responsibility at this stage of reality. I don't know. Things you say can be taken out of context if you don't have the protection for yourself. Secondly, I think what Steven said in this video that we're probably not going to watch all the it's pretty long, or what, 20 minutes, 18 minutes, is that he's not concerned about the money. But I agree with you, Candace. He did say, I can't do 50 million. I need 140. 30 million. Something like about 30 million a year is what he's looking for. Jeremy said that, I think. 30 million.
I think
He counteroffered.
Yeah.
He's like, I didn't sign up. So why'd you counteroffer before you said the terms weren't available?
So after they realized the money, that's not an option. We can't do 140. Steven said, then you got to take these demonetization negative penalties out from, like, if I violate YouTube's terms, because now you're an arm of big tech because you're making me follow YouTube's terms of service. You're basically a lapdog for YouTube.
But Crowder follows their terms of service too.
We all do. That's the whole point. The first time I was on this show, it was during COVID crazy, if I remember correctly, and you said, I know you have a stance on vaccine. Let's wait until we get onto behind the paywall.
Let's be responsible. Let's not get banned.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the 99 things we can, and then the other stuff we can put on timcast.com so that we can start the conversations.
Oh, you're shilling for big tech. You're part of Big Con now. You're all part of Big Con because you're being smart and you don't want to get banned until we have a comparable platform to go to. Listen, in a perfect world, we would all wish that we could do. I invest all of my time in trying to support companies, and sometimes they fail and it sucks. You know what I mean? Like, I really believe in glorified banking. It crashed. I really believe in the freedom phone. That didn't work out. We all want an alternative, and we meaningfully want an alternative. We just don't have them. We're not there yet as a conservative movement. So while we're not there yet, we're just all gonna just shoot ourselves in the foot and be nowhere to prove that we were a real one, right? Ooh, it shows that you're a gangster because you got shot in your chest 9 times.
Yeah,
if you don't get shot in your chest 9 times, you're not a real gangster.
Like, a real effective
so stupid.
fighter against that is to use the momentum of Silicon Valley against itself, or it's for your favor, like jujitsu it. I don't think pushing back is the right use of energy. It requires too much. So you want to use these platforms to, one, get the word out about new platforms, and two, as hosting, because you can host things behind. I mean, obviously they'll get banned.
Whoa, hold on.
Give it to me.
We can check this. Pull upon who is. The domain for Stop Big Con was registered on 12/12/2022.
Whois.com.
Stop Big Con was registered on 12/12/2022.
Internet sleuths are going to catch him.
Crowder announces he left the Blaze and asked people to sign up for Mug Club on 12/15/2022.
It was all the fact. Like, listen, I love you, internet sleuths, because this is, of course, what's going to happen, and this is the problem: is that Steven has to realize people are smart. Okay, people are smart. They're going to figure it out. Oh, so you happened to look up to register Big Con? Yeah, let's confirm that.
What's
Stop
the
Big Con.
website?
Yeah, I got it right
Is
here.
it stopbigcon.com?
Right now we are
12/12/2022. So this was registered. Stop Big Con was registered before he announced he was leaving the Blaze. Is that what it was?
I think that's so weird.
He announced he was leaving the Blaze on 12. Well, look, guys, and again, Crowder will be here on Monday. He can tell us about all this.
And then he recorded his conversation with Jeremy 2 months after that.
I just want to say, like, we're in the middle as per usual. Candace was booked a month and a half ago, and this whole drama lights up. And then we talked with Crowder. We asked him to come on and talk about this. So
I mean, there are so many things I disagree with Daily Wire on. Like, so many things. This is just not one of them. Like, this is just actually someone being a bad person and plotting against them. That's it. That's all this is, right? And that's what I want to say, because, like I said before, I've been with Daily Wire for 3 years. You've never heard me come out and defend them. They're in trouble every other week with a different host for something that they said, something that they haven't said. Ben Shapiro's under fire at least once a week on Twitter. People are angry at him. They think he's a shill for this. I don't wait on anything. This actually, Steven Crowder's a bad person.
I was thinking, what if they just paid Steven $50 million for his back catalog and then put it on Daily Wire exclusive? And the only way to see Steven is to go to Daily Wire. Like, that would, I don't know, $50 million would be worth it, but 4-year terms, all of
you
that.
had a lawyer, you could negotiate.
Or you could go. What if you could go into dailywire.com and then pay 99 cents on a Crowder video to watch it for the day, and then Steven gets half the revenue or something? I mean, there's so many cool things we could do.
I mean, I think it would require Steven to just look at the term sheet and then be like, I'd rather do it this way. Here you go.
There you go. A conversation.
I'm interested to talk to him, Steven, because I think he's got specific feelings and perspectives on what big tech censorship can do to a content creator that needs to be vocalized for future contract negotiations. I've been concerned about contracts, especially with, like, perpetuity clauses. Like, we own your likeness forever in every universe going forward. They'll deep fake you and make you say things. With deep fakes becoming so realistic, they'll own your face and your name. It's crazy. We need to get perpetuity clauses for characters for personality out of contract. I think so right now.
I want to say this. Like, the Daily Wire's got a lot of haters. And I can certainly understand not liking the Daily Wire or not liking certain personalities. I know people who are like, I love Clavin, I don't like Ben Shapiro.
Yeah.
I know people who are like, I only watch Candace, I won't watch anybody else, I think everyone else is bad. And I'm like, okay. But, like,
that should show that, like, we don't all agree on everything.
But Daily Wire existing is a massive net positive, regardless of whether you like what they're doing or not. Like, just again, What is a Woman was a massive cultural force, and that matters so much. We talk about culture and the importance of cultural dominance so much. That documentary reached regular people. It was so big. I mean, I regular people I know, like, oh, I saw that thing that was going viral, and I'm like, hey, that's good. Do more of that. I don't got to go work for him. Crowder doesn't have to go work for you guys. Work for, I say you guys, but for Jeremy or anything like that. But.
And that's why it's so crappy to paint a broad stroke, paint with a broad stroke and say the Daily Wire is this because you're attacking Matt. Well, that's just nothing to do with Steven Crowder. I have nothing to do with Steven Crowder, and yet you're basically making it seem like we're all plants and that we've done something wrong. That's deeply upsetting to me. It's super annoying to me.
I would like to see people stop saying that company is doing thing, because it's people. The people are doing the thing with the guise of the company attempting to protect their person, their identity. But, like, no, companies don't do things. People.
Fair point. Someone mentioned Crowder never said the Daily Wire.
Okay, but, like, the Schmaley Schmeier. I mean, how many freaking all of the context clues were? It's like, this is the crap, the acting of, like, I'm not gonna say it was, but I'm gonna make sure you know that it's not the Blaze. they have a subscription service, and that there are live ad reads, and that they could afford to put enough money on a contract that I would have a conversation.
Does your character have
okay.
glasses?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like literally, this is such a ridiculous defense. In 4 seconds, you can assert this is about the Daily Wire. Can't be Fox News. They don't have live ad reads. He already told you that's not the Blaze. Where does that leave us left with?
Didn't you say that you also recognize the contract?
Fox News.
Yeah,
Well, I
no,
guess
but even before we got to it, I mean, when you say live ad reads, a subscription service, you can't be Fox News because he's already left them and talked trash with them the whole time, and they don't do live ad reads, right? Who else could it have been? Just give me another clue. Who else could it have been? PragerU, 501c3, not for profit. Can't have been them. Can't be. Give me a person it could have been.
So that's what everybody was saying.
Yeah.
The Daily Wire.
Yeah. So I never said a name. It's
what,
like.
What do you think about this? I think this was a bad move on Daily Wire's part. That the contract said if you get demonetized, there will be a fee, but Crowder's already demonetized.
I told you they had these things. This is why I'm saying this was just a conversation starter. They had these same things that made literally entirely no sense in my contract. I was like, okay, is this you guys lawyers just like copy and paste this from somebody else's contract? Like this is just a conversation starter. Like they just want you to see the number and go, excited, and bring your lawyers in, right? There were literally things that were saying like I'm not on TikTok. They mentioned my TikTok. They mentioned my Snapchat, and I was like, okay, well I'm not on any of these things, and I'm never planning on being on them. So we can strike this, and and then you say, okay, this one sounds okay. Can we include an extra line here? Like he kind of started this idea that my my social media channels are controlled. Literally, they had something about access to my Twitter. Took it out. I said, I will never, ever. My Twitter is how I made my entire brand. I will never even share a login to my Twitter, right?
And
my Instagram, same exact thing. And so they created a separate Instagram, which they're allowed to do, which has Candace Owens Pod, and it has its own followers, and they release stuff from the podcast. I didn't want to sell my voice, my social media things. It would have been nice for them to have access.
Okay, so while we're there with them discussing the contracts and everything, let's go learn a little bit about that, shall we?
First, this contract that Steven Crowder brought up yesterday. Steven Crowder's contract is now outed. It is outed by the Daily Wire as coming from the Daily Wire. And the Daily Wire has now done a, whoever.
So this is Rakita Law, in case you guys don't know, and he is a LawTube commentator and a lawyer.
Mr. Boring is, I think his last name is Boring. God, that's weird and unfortunate. Jeremy, is it Jeremy Boring? He has done a response video to the Steven Crowder video, presumably justifying what's in the terms of the agreement, right, or the proposed agreement.
All right. Our friend Steven Crowder has launched a new initiative called Stop Big Con. And in the video announcing the launch of the project, he talked about leaving the Blaze and all the different offers that he fielded from other conservative organizations and what he thought were the real problems with those offers. And that's led
really
a lot of people to speculate about whether or not the Daily Wire is one of the people who made him an offer. In particular, are we the ones who made the offer that he put up on the screen and talked about at length? And the answer is yes, that offer did come from the Daily Wire. First thing you should know is that I'm really miserable to be making this video. Steven's been my friend for 10 years. I think he's maybe the most talented person working in the conservative media space. He's one of the top.
Then why did you kind of send him a shit offer? And I know he's going to say, well, this is only a first offer with no negotiation. If he's a friend that you've had for 10 years and he's the most talented guy in the industry, why are you starting from a shit premise? Why are you doing that?
We'd like to have a conversation with Steven, kind of get into the details of what's he looking for, what's he looking for financially, what's he looking for in terms of structure, what would make his life better, what would make him happy. He's got this opportunity now to have a next chapter. What's he want that next chapter to be? And Steven's agent candidly just wasn't interested in any aspect of that conversation. He only wanted to know about the money. He said, we're not going to have a conversation. We're not going to have some abstract talk. We're going to send us an offer. Tell us how much money you're willing to pay. And he gave us an indication of what the minimum number would have to be in order to even have a discussion with Steven. And it's a big number.
He did you a favor.
So we talked about it internally and we decided, we should do that. We should send over an opening offer, a non-binding term sheet that takes a stab at what we think that minimum number is going to be to get the conversation started so we can sit down with Steven so that we can see if there's a deal that'd be good for him and good for us. And that's what we did. We put together the term sheet, we sent it over, and we asked if we could get on the phone and have a conversation with Steven.
Okay, non-binding term sheet. They're given. He seemed to double speak there. I don't know if you guys caught it, but he seemed to indicate that the agent gave him an idea of what that number would be, and then they came up with a number of what that number would be and sent it, which tells me that the agent told them a number and they went lower than the number. So they're already, in my opinion, I don't know if this is true. It's just the way he said it. It was kind of a weird wording and phrasing of it, but it sounds like they went, okay, that's where they're going to say, which is going to be high. So we're going to come in a little bit lower, and then we'll probably meet somewhere in the middle. But if the agent says, look, we're not talking under $70 million over 4 years, whatever, we're not talking less than $20 million a year, and they come in with $50 million over 4 years with maybe some incentive or whatever. I'm not sure what the total is. I've only heard kind of rumors about it. But if they come in below the number, then they don't want to come to the table. Like if someone says, look, our minimum entry is here, that might be the minimum entry, especially if you're friends. And they know who Crowder is, right? Like Crowder is going to make this money, whether Daily Wire does it or not. So they shot their shot and it was low. That seems to be the indication I'm getting. Crowder thinks it's low. If the money was higher, maybe. But it might not just be low because of the number. It might be low because of those other terms that are automatically going to reduce the number. And one of those terms that they know is going to reduce the number is him being demonetized on YouTube, which has already happened. So whatever offer they put on the table, when they have that 25% off thing, that 25% is going to be coming off of that offer immediately because he's already demonetized. So you got to take whatever and knock a quarter off of it. And if you don't think their lawyers are going to argue that 25% discount is coming out of the fee immediately, you're insane. I've heard some people say, well, it was already off, so he wouldn't lose the 25%. No, he'll lose the 25%. And if he ever gets remonetized, he would get that 25% tacked back on. That's how their lawyers would argue that in a contract dispute, and it would happen right away. because his payment would be 25% lower than possible. So yeah, it's just a conversation. I'm guessing he's going to go through this, but here we can see fee is $50 million for the initial term, which is 4 years, and then $25 million for every 2-year renewal at Daily Wire's sole discretion. So Daily Wire can choose to renew the contract or not after the 4 years for half the term, half the money. Makes sense. There's no built-in increase, which you would probably negotiate a built-in increase if you're going to have that renewal term in there. But you know, for now, I think this is fair, or you negotiate some sort of thing in there. But this is it. So you're looking at what, $50 million over 4 years is what, $12.5 million a year. Do we have any idea how many Mug Club subscribers there are and how much Mug Club costs? How much does Mug Club cost? $100 a year. Okay, so if he has 300,000, I'm seeing, times $100 a year, that's $30 million a year. My understanding is under the fee agreement that goes to Daily Wire. So now I know it's not going to be that flat because there's incentives. Some people are saying it's $80 a year with the sale. But 300,000, let's say it's 50.
You guys heard that, right? So that entire time, Candace was going out and spinning because there was like a bunch of stuff she was doing. And other people, pick up, like downstreamers always do this, that he was being ridiculous and acting like a crazy person when he was offered $50 million, which is huge, right? But it was not huge in the context of what Crowder makes already, right?
$50 a year, you're at $15 million a year. So even at half price, he's already, just from Mug Club alone, over the Daily Wire yearly thing. It's only expected to go up. His Mug Club memberships are not expected to drop dramatically. So we've already got a problem. And this is probably where the conversation started, with the amount of money that would be required to even have the conversation with Crowder. You've got to out-earn Mug Club, or you've got to get me to Mug Club or slightly below with some reasonable level of security that Mug Club doesn't offer me. Why would Crowder negotiate his salary down $7 million a year? Like, why would he do that? Like, why is that? Why would we expect him to? Now, maybe he would if something was worth that to him. Now, when you also figure in all your merch is gone, like his merch sales, and merch sales for Crowder are probably a decent chunk of money. I don't know how great they are, but like my merch sales always sucked. But my merch always sucked because I designed it, and I suck at designing merch. Crowder's got good people designing merch. So now you're talking about taking away that extra stuff, and you're talking about taking away one-time ticketed events and stuff like that. So I'm already seeing a problem here. But he's saying this is a non-binding, this is an introductory sort of offer. Okay, an introductory, here, let's get to a conversation. Here's what we're kind of expecting thing. But if this wasn't enough, this is just Crowder saying fuck off. And he can do that.
And for those of you who've never been through a contract negotiation, well, that's how it works. When you send someone an offer, you don't send them everything that you're willing to say yes to, because there is going to be a negotiation, because agents and lawyers are going to get involved, because you can't read their mind. You don't know everything that will be important to them and everything that they'll want. You don't know even some of their sort of non-negotiable points. And so you send over.
But what you learn in negotiation is that it is like the most effective negotiations are collaborative processes. And when you start at the hostile part, and you guys are this far apart to start, you have a much harder time getting to the middle, where people are playing games and trying to fool each other. You've already said that Crowder's been your friend for 10 years. You've been wanting to work with him forever. Why are you starting here and thinking he's starting here when you could start here and have him be here and come to the middle? You seem, again, you're talking as if he's your friend, but at the same time talking as if he's an adverse party that you're trying to take over with the least amount of pain for your company, but you're willing to come way up. Start higher. Open with that. Say, hey, we're not fucking around here. We don't want to screw you. We like you. You're big. We're the biggest conservative media outlet out there. We've got some of the real powerhouses. We've got Walsh. We've got Knowles. We've got Ben Shapiro. And adding a Crowder would really round out our lineup with bringing in new people to Daily Wire who might not otherwise jive with our rather stuffy content. We want that sort of edgier comedic aspect to it. So let's not fuck around. Let's not fight each other. We're collaborative here. Let's go for it. You can do this. This works in negotiation when negotiations can be friendly and when the other party is honest. Both of these guys are presenting themselves as honest dealers, and I think that's fair. I think Daily Wire should be an honest dealer, and I think Crowder would be an honest dealer with them, especially if they're actually friends, unless they're just blowing smoke for the viewers on this thing. And I don't think that that's what Jeremy Boring's doing here.
But Stephen has always built in this protection for himself that he wants to actually produce his content. Stephen likes to do that with his own team to just make doubly sure that no one's interfering with his content, not that we would. And so we anticipated that, and we said, Crowder will bear the burden of production, including all costs associated therewith, on all the content contemplated herein, except on the
See, I was right about that. He's paying for his own production. So all that stuff that Candace said about, if you miss a day and you're not working and it's going to charge you $100,000 fee a day, then because they have to pay for all that stuff. Well, he had to do that himself.
Quarterly and annual content contemplated below. We'll get to that part.
Okay, and they're just going to breeze past that. Crowder's already doing that. Crowder's already bearing the burden of the cost of his show. So they're asking him to take a pay cut, and they're not even taking on production costs for him. Because we know that Crowder wants to do that. That's a very weaselly way around saying that, yeah, not only are we giving him this offer that seems lower than his Mug Club membership already brings in, but we're also not going to defray the low offer by covering production and staffing costs, because we think Crowder would want that. He's always built that protection in. Well, building that protection in is great. Why don't you pay the staff then? take them on his Daily Wire staff or something, agree to do that. There are ways around that. But if you're giving him a lower fee than what he's already making and he's still bearing the cost of production, what incentive does he have to take the lower fee?
Revenue collection that says we'll have the exclusive right to realize revenue in connection with all of his content and brand. We're paying you this guaranteed significant amount of money, $50 million. And for that, one of the things we're buying is the content, but we're also buying the right to monetize the content so that we can have a chance of making some money and not just spending money. What is the content? First, we broke this into.
Yeah, so they'll take the money, all of the monetization. They're going to pay him, and in exchange, they say they're buying the content. They're buying the money that the content earns. I mean, that's their risk in this, is that Crowder will produce content that people continue to want to buy, that they'll continue to pay to support. That's their downside risk. And that makes perfect sense. But again, what they're doing is they're saying, like, again, hypothetically, Mug Club makes $15 million a year. What they're saying is we're going to buy $15 million a year for $12.5 million. That's what they're saying. Now, their risk is that Mug Club will stop producing $15 million a year. Crowder's risk is that he's going to out-earn the $12.5 million. But Crowder's already realizing the risk and has no upside potential. There's no benefit to Crowder to signing the contract. And they should know that. Like, they should have, you'd think they'd have done market research. You'd think they'd have a friend at the Crowder show somewhere who would be willing to tell them what the subscriber numbers are. And I mean, to be fair, maybe they did. Maybe the subscriber numbers aren't as high as people are estimating.
Item 6, back catalog. Crowder will license his entire back catalog, including without limitation every past episode of Louder with Crowder, to us during the term. That just
okay. So everything that Crowder has ever created on Louder with Crowder now belongs to Daily Wire as well, and they monetize that also. This is reasonable in some sense because it's practicable, right? As people go and watch the back catalog, like, to separate out that from the new catalog would be burdensome. So this makes sense, but it is important to remember that all of the new content that is produced under the Daily Wire contract, sure, that goes to Daily Wire, but also all old content is licensed to Daily Wire. They can do whatever they want with it. They can republish it. They can just reap existing money. They can go back and recut it with ads and do like archive episodes or however they want to do it. They can chop it up into new stuff. And Crowder doesn't get anything out of that because he's granting them a license to utilize that content as they wish. And again, this is all included in the fee, so nothing. He's not going to get anything new out of whatever they do with that existing content. And since he's granting them a license, anything he does with that existing content also goes to them. So he doesn't have any ability to do like a compilation episode, a best of, a greatest hits, let's remember this, and republish something. He doesn't get to do that and reap any benefit. All of that would go to Daily Wire because they'd have the licensing rights for all of those things. So, and that again is like it's not an unfair term as long as that expires at the expiration of the contract, which it seems to here because it doesn't say exclusively and in perpetuity. It just says that he grants a license to them to do this. That's a reasonable term. I just wanted to explain what that actually means. And again, going back into this fee agreement that they're asking for.
Daily Wire will own all of the content created herein and will own all of the DW created channels and brands created by us during the term. And to be clear, we can exploit those channels, brands, and content in perpetuity at our sole discretion. What is
all of the content contemplated to be created herein? So Daily Wire will own every show Crowder makes, even after Crowder leaves, while it's in the term. So they're going to own 4 years of Louder with Crowder. That's what this says. After the term, Crowder doesn't get access, or he doesn't get ownership of the 4 years of content that he created. Daily Wire will own all of the content contemplated to be created herein. Also, all merch. Also, any new websites that are created in relation to this, any of the quarterly content or whatever that they're talking about, the annual content. If he does a stand-up special, Daily Wire will own it. They will own everything he creates in the next 4 years. He will not get those rights back to his show. His existing shows that he's licensing to them, he'll get those back, but the 4 years of content he creates, he will not own. And this is the hard part, and this is a big risk for Crowder, and this that people may not be contemplating. So let's say Crowder, he brings his subscribers over, they sign up for Daily Wire or whatever. They even if they create a subsection, it's like you're signing up for Crowder, but it's going to Daily Wire. However they do it, he won't own that either. And when he leaves, that stays with Daily Wire. So what you're asking Crowder to do here is at the end of the contract, rebuild his brand again if he wants to do it. So Crowder this is something people may be missing out on. At the end of this 4-year term, Crowder loses everything he's built yet again, which he just seems to have done with the Blaze. Everything Crowder builds at Daily Wire is going to be owned by Daily Wire, which means he's not, if he starts over, he's starting over. Sure, he'll keep his channel and his subscriber numbers and all of that stuff, but he'll have to rebuild the monetization from scratch again, for potentially as soon as 4 years later, maybe.
So basically what he's saying there is that all the subscribers that are subscribed to Crowder now will have to go through this Daily Wire subscription thing. Then when he leaves, all those get left with the Daily Wire. And as hard as it is, I mean, I just started this YouTube channel. It's unbelievably hard to get people just to subscribe to the channel, let alone paid memberships, and then to get people to move from one place to another, I can imagine is probably hard too. I just reached a milestone with my channel, and I have been accepted with YouTube's partnership program, and I have to figure out how to set all that up, and I will be able to have memberships and super chats and super thanks on my channel. And then the next milestone would be being able to have ads. So I haven't set it all up yet, but when I do, I want to do a show showing how all this stuff works in the background and how hard it is to get people to sub it is unbelievable. Like, I never realized this watching YouTube all these years. I always watch like a whole video when I watch YouTube. Most people do not. They only watch like a few minutes of a video, and then your video can get thousands of views, and you might get 2 or 3 subscribers just from those thousands of views. So it's really wild to me seeing the background and all the analytics and stuff on the videos. So I thought it would be cool to show people that in a video. But anyway, my point of saying all that was that it is incredibly hard to get people to actually become members, I'm imagining, and then to get them to move from one place to another is going to be hard. And so what he's saying is you're basically building it back up again every time you move if you're under like a contract like this.
6 years later. That's a big downside risk for Crowder.
What does this mean? Well, it means just like all of the back catalog that Crowder would have been bringing over, we would have a license to have that all over at Daily Wire Plus during the 4 to 6 years that Crowder was
That's
here.
not what this means.
At the end of that 4 to 6 years, he would take all that content with
Nope.
him.
That's a lie right there. It says very clearly in the term, DW will own all of the content contemplated to be created herein and will own all DW created channels and brands created by DW during the term. It does not say they will only own it during the term. They will own all the created channels and brands that are created by Daily Wire during the term. To be clear, they can exploit those channels, brands, and content in perpetuity at its sole discretion. So he just actually misrepresented the terms of this contract by the fucking text. Now, maybe they didn't mean it that way, but what's written on paper is not what he just said.
A little bit different with the content that
Okay,
we're
wait,
paying
no, okay, he's clarifying. Sorry, I misunderstood.
tens of millions of dollars
hasty.
for during the course of that content would always stay with us. We would have a sort of perpetual
I
right
was hasty,
to
my
monetize
bad.
that content even after Crowder would leave. And you know, if Matt Walsh were to leave the Daily Wire, presumably at some date in the future, what as a woman would stay here? It was we paid for that. We paid for the marketing of it, the production of it. You know, we paid him for the time in which he created it. So this contemplates something very similar. We would still have the right to the things that we make. As far as channels and brands,
I take it back. You didn't lie. You just worded it in a shitty way.
social media management.
Fighting
this one was very something that Stephen seemed particularly aggravated by in his video, although I don't understand why.
Well, let's read it.
It says DW will have the exclusive right to manage, curate, and monetize his official Facebook, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Snapchat, Rumble, and other social media accounts, excluding his existing personal Twitter and Instagram accounts. We're saying that during the term, we have, of course, he puts his podcast on Apple Podcasts. We're the ones monetizing the Apple Podcast. So this is just making clear that, yes, we're selling ads in his podcast, the podcast goes out on Apple Podcasts, that revenue comes back to us. We put something up on Facebook, same thing. We bring in ad revenue off that Facebook piece of content, but we're going to own that during the term. Obviously, at the end of the term, he's going to get his official Facebook account back. He's going to get his official YouTube account back. He's going to get his official Apple Podcast channel back. But during the term, again, all those people behind us, we've got experts in every one of these platforms, how to optimize it, how to make sure that you're getting the most out of it, and we'll manage that and we'll collect the revenue. But not his Twitter and Instagram, because those are very personal channels. You can't manage someone's Twitter. I can't.
Well, I mean, you can
for Candace Owens. I can't speak for Ben Shapiro.
Literally can if you want to.
If only I could. I would like what they say a lot more. I mean, you know, as you know about Daily Wire, we have a lot of disagreements sometimes between our hosts. Presumably, if I could control everything that they say, there'd never be any disagreements. They would just all be right all the time, like I am. You know, we get this a lot where people are like, you know, Jordan's Twitter has changed since he joined Daily Wire Plus. I have nothing to do with Jordan Peterson's Twitter account. I don't have login credentials for his Twitter account. I've never asked him to tweet anything or not tweet anything. That'd be way outside of the bounds of what's acceptable. Because that's a very personal medium.
Joined our
very personal
organization.
Medium. Instagram.
Yeah, we didn't do anything.
It also says that we will have the perpetual and exclusive right to create, own, manage, curate, and monetize any and all social media accounts that we create based on Crowder's content or shows. Crowder already has enormous social channels. He's got like 6 million YouTube followers or something. He's one of the biggest voices in the movement. But what happens if we create a documentary like What is a Woman? Well, sure, you've got Matt's Facebook and Matt's YouTube that are promoting What is a Woman. But we may also want to build a Twitter account, you know, that is at What is a Woman. Well, that wouldn't belong to Matt. That would belong to us because What is a Woman belongs to us. And that's what this was meant to say, that all of the stuff that Crowder brings over, that's his, Louder with Crowder and all, you know, his Louder with Crowder accounts, all of that. Well, that's his. We're going to manage it for him during the term. We're going to monetize it during the term. At the end of the term, all of that's going to go back to him. He said that was not what it says in his video that he released, but you can read right here. That's exactly. He gets all of it's only during the term that we control that. But the things that we make based on the content that we make, well, that belongs to us because the content belongs to us. So those channels have to
you're not making the content, you're buying the content. You've said he's making the content.
Would never match anything like the magnitude of the channels he's created for himself, obviously.
Well,
11 exclusivity should go without saying. If you're going to pay somebody $50 million, you're going to have exclusivity. They can't go make content for people who compete with you. You don't pay someone to go work for the competition. But there's carve-outs.
That also means that Crowder can't do anything other than stuff for Daily Wire because they have total exclusivity on all media, all content, all of it. So someone's saying Crowder does other stuff than Louder with Crowder or whatever. Yes, but all of it is owned by Daily Wire for the term, and all of it will be owned after the term as well. So if Crowder wants to do a second show, if he wants to do something extra, he has to do it with the consent of Daily Wire and through Daily Wire. He has to. It's in the contract that they have the exclusivity of all of it.
Of course, he can go do non-regular guest appearances if Tucker wants to have him on, if Fox of Friends wants to have him on, if he wants to go do a hit with Glenn Beck or something. He can go do that. He should use good faith efforts.
Yeah, he can do guest spots, but that's not something that he's creating.
Now, here's this section that I know Stephen was very offended by. And I think he misunderstood and therefore misrepresented. Fee reductions. There's a different fee reduction for all those kinds of content we've created.
It's interesting.
Daily content. If he fails for any reason to deliver 192 episodes of The Daily Show, or if he fails to include the ads that we agreed to or the promotions that we agreed to in those episodes, then we'll give a $100,000 reduction every time. What's that about? Well, again, you can't pay someone any amount of money, but you certainly can't pay them an unimaginably huge amount of money for their show and then not get the show. So what this is saying is you don't have to produce a show every day. You don't have to produce 260 or 250 or 240 or 230 or 220 or 210 episodes a year. You have to produce 192 episodes a year. But if you don't give us 192 episodes, we can't pay you the same amount of money as if you did give us 192 episodes. So this is just, you give us 192 times 4 minus 1, then out of your 50 million, we're hitting minus 100,000. Steven said that this is unfair, that if he had a sick day or got in a car wreck, we'd dock him $100,000. But I think that's just totally inaccurate for 2 reasons. One, presumably if he was sick this Tuesday, he could just shoot an episode next Friday and you'd be completely even. He's got an awful lot of extra time in the year.
Except in the contract, it specifically says Monday through Thursday. Now, you'd probably flex in the contract and allow him to shoot on Friday. That'd be fine. But you did say Monday through Thursday was the shooting days. That's in the contract. We read it just a minute ago. So recording on Friday is not actually part of the contract that's contemplated. Again, you may gentlemanly agree, and you can probably clarify that in negotiations, but it's not in the terms that's there.
Second of all, it's actually contemplated a little bit later. What happens if there's a disability? In fact, we'll just skip right to it. It's item E. In the event of temporary disability or serious illness that prevents Crowder from performing, the fee will be reduced on a pro rata basis, not subject to the fee reduction mentioned above. What does that mean? Well, instead of a sort of punitive fee because he's choosing not to do the right thing, in that situation, we'll just reduce it by dividing the total amount of money.
So instead of a $100,000 penalty, it's a $62,000 penalty because, as people have pointed out, if you take the 12.5 million and you divide it by 192, you get 62,000. As the number. So that's the pro rata share that they're talking about. Except it's not $62,000 a show. What is the actual value? That's the real question, because this also contemplates quarterly, right? It contemplates quarterly and annual content that would be produced. It also contemplates merch sales and ads run on every single thing. So what is the actual value? We don't actually know. But it's not 62,000, or it shouldn't be. I'm sure Daily Wire would argue that it's 62,000, but it's technically not. It would be some number sub 62,000 because they're paying for everything, as he has made very, very clear throughout this entire bit, that they're buying all of this stuff and they have to monetize. They have to bring it back. They have to do the ads. They have to do this. They're buying access to the website. They're buying access to the social media. They're buying access to everything. So what is the pro rata share? We don't know. And that would be a fight if they ever, got into it, that they'd probably hammer out behind closed doors and with a sealed agreement. But yeah, the pro rata share is, it's presumably 62 grand, but it's in actuality, it should be much, much less. We have no idea what else happened in their discussions. First of all, I think they went in not as a friend, but as an adversary. I think that's what the contract tells me. Maybe I'm crazy. That's what it kind of looks like. And we have no idea how they conducted themselves in the actual meeting with Crowder. And if they came in hostile, playing hardball, that could very much sour relations between the two parties really, really quickly. If Crowder thinks that he can create something that will far out earn what they're offering him, why wouldn't he?
That brings us to 13, reduction of fee from lost revenue or boycotts. Again, this is one of the points that Stephen really focused on. He says we're enforcers for big tech, that we're doing big tech bidding, that we're punishing content creators if they run afoul of big tech. And first of all, that's just personally incredibly offensive. It's incredibly offensive to have your friend and ally in 10 years of fighting this fight alongside one another, coming up together,
big tech?
Say that you're not sufficiently conservative, say that you're I think he said in the video that we're worse than the left, that we're doing harm to the conservative audience and harm to the country, that we're not sufficiently at odds with big tech. Obviously that's ridiculous. You'll see that it's ridiculous as we go through this and I explain it. It should be, it's absurd on its face. We get content strikes all the time. We get demonetized all the time. We get shadow banned all the time, just like all conservatives.
What content strikes? Is Candace Owens, Shapiro, Michael Knowles, or Matt Walsh, are they getting content strikes? Jordan Peterson, is he getting content strikes even? Matt Walsh got a ban? I don't know about this, but he says it happens all the time. I haven't heard about it a lot lately, but maybe it does. I don't follow them, so I'm genuinely asking. I have no way to check this.
We're investing tens of millions of dollars every year into technology to try to create alternatives. That's a long-term project. No one has built anything. Rumble is not a true competitor to YouTube yet. I hope that they become one. But right now, YouTube has many billions of people use YouTube and many millions of people use Rumble. It's a long-term investment to build these alternatives. And Daily Wire Plus is an alternative platform. But right now, we all still are dependent for getting our message out. To have
Daily Wire Plus isn't anything like YouTube or Rumble. Like if they're talking about building a competitor, Daily Wire Plus is not the competitor to YouTube. It's nothing even fucking close.
Have access to big tech and to monetize our content. We have to have access to big tech. That's where the audience is, and it's where the money is. It's also where Steven Crowder has made his entire name. He's the biggest conservative YouTube star of all time.
That's not true. Crowder made his name on radio before he was on YouTube. I know this because I was listening to Crowder on radio. I was listening to the Steven Crowder show before it was on YouTube.
The number one place people will view it is on YouTube. And that's not wrong.
Hold on. Now I'm curious. He's got 200,000 views on Rumble. He does have 900,000 views on YouTube. So it is being more viewed on YouTube than Rumble. Although comparatively, per capita, Rumble is doing better based on total user base that he's described as billions versus millions. So then, good job, Steven. Steven Crowder also has 1 million subscribers on Rumble and 6 million on YouTube. So his engagement is significantly higher on Rumble versus his YouTube channel as well as a percentage of his total audience.
Where people are. That's, of course, they're going to watch it on YouTube. Of course, he's going to put it out on YouTube. That's where the audience is. Now, Steven might respond by saying, yes, but I don't make any money off of YouTube. I have been demonetized there. And that's a point that we'll talk about here. Nevertheless, you and I never went, when we go to YouTube to watch Steven Crowder may be demonetized and he may not.
Don't tell me what I do. I don't go to YouTube.
YouTube, though, still makes money off of us. And so in that way,
I don't go anywhere. I watch it on Rumble.
He's still driving success for YouTube. It's unfortunate that YouTube has chosen to cut him out of participating. So what were we trying to accomplish with this section? Well, let's go through it. The reduction of fee from lost revenue from boycotts, content strikes, or bans from major social media platforms. A, ad drop. If Crowder is boycotted or dropped by more than 50% of his then extant advertising partners, that is, if 50% of the money that he's making from advertisers is suddenly gone, and we're not able to replace that revenue within 90 days, then his fee will be reduced by 25% until such time as the ad revenue has been restored for a period of 90 days, and then it would all reset. Steven says, all the left does is boycott our advertisers, so this just says to the left, your boycotts work and we'll enforce it for you. We will punish the content creator for you.
Yes.
But this isn't about punishing the content creator.
I mean, it is. Like, look, I look at a 25% pay cut from my contract holder as a punishment. Now I get that he's going to say, no, it's not about punishing him. It's about, we have to do whatever. But the reality is, in my opinion, and maybe I'm wrong, but I've been through this, so maybe I'm right too. That boycott would ultimately be beneficial for Daily Wire. It would ultimately be a boon to Daily Wire because everyone on Daily Wire would talk about it. It would generate a shit ton of views. It would probably bring in new advertisers. It would ultimately be a good thing in the long term. And I think Daily Wire knows that.
This is about if the Daily Wire is going to leverage, I can't stress it, probably $100 million by the time you have marketing and infrastructure costs.
Look, this contract's worth $50 million. Oh my God, have you heard of our $60 million contract? This $75 million contract isn't going to pay for itself. What are we going to do to pay for this $100 million contract? It's literally the meme. You need to stop, brother. Please, stop. You have to stop. It's getting ridiculous that it's the meme. You're doing the damn meme.
He would have wanted much more, at least $100 million.
Maybe 110.
Obviously, if the show makes dramatically less money, well, then Steven has to make less money because we're making less money. And I brought this up to Steven on the phone, and I said, Steven, if we guarantee you $1 for your show, and the show makes $1 in ad revenue and $1 in subscription revenue, then how does the money work? Well, it works that $2 come in, you get your guaranteed $1, we get $1. What do we do? What do you do with your $1? Well, you produce your show, and you pay yourself. What do we do with our $1? Well, we market your show, provide all the back-end infrastructure, pay for the 250 plus humans who work.
The back-end infrastructure? No, you don't. You again, first of all the back-end production is paid for by Crowder. You said that. The back-end infrastructure is literally YouTube and Rumble and Facebook and whatever other hosting platform. And then Daily Wire Plus also utilizes their own proprietary infrastructure. But that's not necessary. Like, you're not providing something that Steven Crowder doesn't have access to by giving him some hosting on Daily Wire Plus. That's a benefit to you, not to Crowder. That you're not buying Crowder by saying, oh, we'll give you Daily Wire Plus access for the 30 minutes of your show. That's part of your buy, is demanding that he hosts 30 minutes of his show on Daily Wire Plus. He would be just as fine off doing locals or a private YouTube members only video, or, there's any number of ways he could do this. He could do it through Odyssey, Patreon, anywhere would allow Steven Crowder what you're talking about.
So we pay for that out of our $1, and then we pay ourselves. But that's how it works. I said, if the next day one of the dollars, the ad $1, goes away, now what happens?
It'd actually be 50 cents.
Should it be
goes away.
That you said something on your show that caused that $1 to go away? Now you keep your $1 and we make $0? I said, that wouldn't make any sense. Obviously, you would have to lose a little and we would have to lose a little. I said, we're trying to sort of emulate the idea of a joint venture. And Steven said, no, you should lose all the money. It's your business. And I said, well, Steven, how would we have?
Steven's right. Like, that might be uncomfortable for people, but Crowder's right there. They're buying all of this. He said over and over, we're buying this. We're buying the show. We're buying the ads. We're buying all this space. Crowder is right. The way they're establishing this deal, it's not a partnership. It's a purchase. Imagine if you bought a car and you got a speeding ticket, and then the dealership calls up and says, yeah, we're actually going to increase your monthly payments by $100. Why? You got a ticket. So, like, you bought the thing. It's yours now. They're buying the show. They do take on the risk. They know who Crowder is. They know the potential for this to happen. They know all of this stuff. And to pretend like it's this, well, no, this is a collaborative effort. No, you've said over and over, you're buying it, he gets a fee, and you guys get to do whatever to make up that fee plus profit. That's your downside risk. Now, you may not like that, but if you don't like that, then you need to build a more collaborative agreement. And maybe that would be worked out in negotiation. But stop trying to spin this as something other than a purchase. It's not anything other than a purchase per your own words. And that's where this is getting really frustrating for me, because it's like you just sound really dishonest when you're saying, oh, we're buying this. This is what we're buying. This is what we're paying for. This is what we're doing. And we have to recoup all of it. And that's true, but that's your downside risk. And they're trying to mitigate out that risk from the start. But that's asking Crowder to take on all the risk. And by the way, Crowder may not just be boycott by people over what he says. Crowder may be boycott over something Matt Walsh says, or the fact that he's associated with the Daily Wire. And how can they distinguish that? Because what if Crowder's ad revenue dries up because the Daily Wire fails to produce the ads? Think about that. That's not contemplated in the contract. They're assuming that Crowder would lose the revenue because of Crowder. But if Daily Wire or Matt Walsh or Michael Knowles or Ben Shapiro does something and it causes major advertisers of Daily Wire, because I don't know if you know this, but a bunch of Rumble creators, we run the same ads. There's a reason, right? They contract with Rumble. Rumble delivers ads to some creators, and we do ads that they think, that would be good fit for the channel. Let's say those major advertisers pull from Rumble. Is that my fault? Maybe, but probably not. It could be anybody's fault. It could be Salty Cracker's fault or Viva Fry's fault or Rumble's fault or they just decide not to advertise anymore. Now Crowder's being penalized again for a loss of revenue that might not be his fault. And that's not in there either. Again, they're contemplating this as a collaborative effort, but the contract is written as a purchase. And this is the problem with the dishonesty in all of this. And this is the problem with not doing the negotiation in a collaborative fashion. It doesn't look collaborative. And he's trying to pass it off as if it is.
Why would we be in business? And how would we stay in business?
Okay, so I found that interesting. Let's go back. So let's watch a little bit of Crowder on Timcast, because they said he was coming on. Let's see if he has anything to say about any of that.
Announcement. The Daily Wire's response. Candace Owens then came on this show, gave her response. Steven Crowder released a video explaining his response to their response. And now we have an opportunity to hear Steven Crowder's side of everything. And this is an important story. A lot of people have asked me, why does this matter? It's drama between media companies. And I think the questions being asked right now could determine the shape of independent, alternative, anti-establishment, and corporate media in general moving forward. Is it going to more take the shape of the traditional Hollywood system, but with better views? Or is it going to be a new system that makes sure the individuals are empowered and can maintain themselves through the issues of censorship and run their own companies after any contracts change? There's a lot of questions here, more than just that. And so joining us tonight to talk about all of this is, of course, we've got Steven Crowder.
Yeah, thank you, sir. It's a little roomy. Is there a way for me to just put headphones? I should have done it before. I'm an idiot.
Actually,
yeah, we don't.
Helen can do it from his end.
The new studio has the modules where you can control, but we're.
I also got these armrests. I'm like hitting the table, so if I look like an idiot, it's probably.
You can lower the seat.
How do I?
On the right side, there's a lever.
Yeah, it's the front lever of the two.
Now I'm gonna think I'm super tiny.
Yeah, now you're short. I'll adjust your camera. But and also you brought your CEO.
Gerald Morgan. Yeah, now officially just became CEO in the last couple of weeks there.
We'll have to adjust these cameras. So Serge, Mrs. Flight, I guess is that what happened?
Yeah, sounds like it.
So we're completely just
there you go.
Ian will get it.
I just split the difference. Is that okay? I just kind of went up. I don't think you need to adjust it.
No, he needs to turn it to the side.
Oh, okay.
There we go.
So thanks. It's almost like one of those things where it's like when Santa met the M&Ms.
Yeah.
Seeing you in person.
Well, they got rid of
it.
M&Ms. Oh, right, but they're gone.
No, they have a lesbian M&Ms.
No, they got rid of it. It's Maya Rudolph now.
Just now.
Okay, we're going to talk about that. But ladies and gentlemen, before we get started.
It makes sense that she's a lesbian M&M that she was so fat.
Before we get started.
Because she's eating other female M&Ms. I'm not saying lesbians are fat.
Right.
Sugar.
Big bones eat each other.
She was big bone.
Yeah,
all right, let's do this. Before we get started, head over.
Can I say one thing, by the way?
Before we do, we should turn Steven's mic up a little bit.
I was going to say, because you're coming in a little bit hot in my ears, and when you were saying OG, which I'm really happy to hear, but it was loud.
So do you want to maybe bring Steven's headset down a little and his mic up a little?
And one thing, which camera am I talking to there? People are watching the live stream on my YouTube channel or Rumble. It's only going to be the first 20 minutes. There's really no other way to reach you, like with a post, and then just head over to Timcast IRL, right?
YouTube.com/TimcastIRL.
Perfect. So all of you head over there now if you can, but in 20 minutes, it's not going to be here.
Or Timcast.com. We just have it embedded on the front. That's easier.
Well, I'm glad you guys are here. The drama, personal stuff, I'm not really interested in as much as the contracts themselves. I've been thinking about this since 2006, 7, 8. Like, I'm similar to you, Steven. You've been making internet videos.
Can I say
Maker Studios? Yeah. I was only verbally, we would hang out, me and Ben Donovan and Dan Zapinski up in a hotel room talking about creating a union for web actors. Right. And it's evolved into now, it never really happened. And now I think there's a technical solution. We don't need to make paperwork necessarily. Because I don't like trusting people with paperwork anyway, personally.
Yeah, my problem isn't so much with paper itself.
You don't like it?
No, my problem isn't so much with papers, but
what's printed on the paper.
Right. No, I remember I was with Maker, and then it kind of morphed into something where the whole idea, right, was they were going to help protect you, get better advertising rates, and then I said some things like, hey, we can't be repping you anymore. They turned into Studio something. I think they got purchased by Disney.
71?
Was that what it was? There were a couple of them, right, that were out there. There was like Collab Studios. Was that one that was called? I don't know.
We'll get into all that. I want to make sure everybody else Kellen's here.
What's up, everybody? It's Kellen filling in for Serge. Let's get started, guys.
Yeah, so Serge, Mrs. Flight, I guess, but we're all here and we're stringing it together with duct tape. And
Kellen's not duct tape.
No, he's good. Yeah, he's more like
that's throwing you to the bus right off the bat.
It's that metallic airline tape.
Oh, that's better.
Yeah, it's like people see it and they get scared. It's duct tape, but don't worry.
Dog crap.
I'll take
your duct tape. Give me a double-sided, bitch.
But I got the fancy airline duct tape. I'll take it.
All right, let's Kroger brand duct tape. Wait. Go ahead.
Let's jump into this first story. We have this stopbigcon.com.
Yeah.
Louder with Crowder, Stop Big Con, stay in Mug Club, or join a new, enter your email below. So let's get started and talk about from the beginning. Mm-hmm. Most people are familiar with the story. Yeah. I want to make sure as we get this started, I want to make sure there's important contextual understanding. People have asked why it's so important that, and why is everybody interested in the story? Why have we talked about it so much? First, I will say But I'm biased. I work for big corporations. I've run my own company. I have this passion for how the media companies operate, how I operate my media company, my vision for the future. And I know so much about this. It's something I care about. When I hear about it, I'm just driven to want to understand more, talk about it, share these ideas. But it's more than just that. I just want to make sure that my bias is clear. It's that I, for one, have taken issue with the establishment media, the traditional media systems, how they operate with contracts. And so trying to build something different, I see what Crowder announced and what he's talking about, and I ideologically agree. So this conversation could change the shape of how media moves forward as the corporate media system is dying, firing people, laying people off, and an independent ecosystem is emerging with these networks. Which form is it going to take? It could go completely corporate, it could go completely independent, it could be a mix of both. But this is a conversation that is extremely important moving forward. So we're hanging out with Steven Crowder and Gerald, of course.
Gerald
to talk
understands
about
the business side more. I don't really take care of the finances as much.
What's the story here? What's the story?
Well, first off, let me set something up off the bat. I want to make sure everyone here knows. Like, I know that you guys have made very clear that you're monetized on YouTube because you believe that you can fight against big tech by sort of operating to some degree within the rules, but you've been very transparent about it. And so I don't want you to think that that is at all the same as what I have a problem with. And I mean, we can go back to a few things. Look, it really comes down to what's right. It really comes down to what the truth is. And this is something that's been a long time coming. Gerald actually came on as CEO because we're being batted around so long. This is years and years in the making. I get the point with corporate media. The issue that I have with many in the conservative side of this sphere is the fundamental misleading and dishonesty. That's what I have a problem with. And you see that here as this story took place. Kind of it started right where we released this video. We didn't, and it was just by design, didn't name names because there could be a litany of contracts that are similar to this. A lot of them are often verbal offers.
We mentioned it could have been Fox News for all anyone knew, and they're the corporate monolith.
There's about 4 or 5. I would say we have 4 or 5 offers, and then there are other investors who come into the space who just want to dump in a whole bunch of money. Daily Wire here outed themselves, and I understand that people say, well, people knew who it was. Well, that's because some of the people who were under those contracts said, yeah, I recognize those contracts. And Candace said on the show, I recognize the terms from my contract. Here's the thing. I said this is wrong. Penalizing conservatives, and I believe this to my absolute core, penalizing conservatives on behalf of big tech while taking money from people who are paying you, investing in you to fight big tech. That is what they're investing in. That is what Mud Club is investing in. That's what subscribers are investing in. While simultaneously penalizing conservatives is fundamentally wrong. I had that conversation and said, look, just please give me your word. You're not going to be doing this with other people who, as you well know, when you start in this industry, don't know better. Immediately after that, right, the conversation was, Crowder is making a big deal as a dick about money, right? Basketball money. $50 million a year was the implication, which you know is not true. People aren't saying that now. That's not what people have a problem with. What people have a problem with, I understand, is the idea of a phone call. And now the narrative has shifted to betrayal of a friend. That's what people want to say. I say less raw. I say this is something that I've watched, experienced for years, tried to give every possible out to do the right thing, and have tried to do the right thing in the way that we run our own business. Saw the gaslighting, the bully tactics that take place behind the scenes of other creators, and knew it wouldn't be myself. So now the narrative shifts to how could you record a phone call, betray a friend? Hold on a second. It was just about money. It was just, this is just business. And now it's, hey, we're really good friends. Well, which is it? I mean, you kind of have to pick a lane, right? Are we good friends? Or are you sending out a boilerplate contract that you demand of everybody according to what they say? They have 110% penalties on behalf of big tech. And the issue with that is that it's dishonest. It's a tactic of the left. It's a tactic, the same kind of tactic that you see from the left, the gaslighting, where if you, let me ask you this.
Real quick.
Yeah.
I just want to clarify, you said 110% penalty?
Yeah, you can see the contract right there. If you add them all up.
So you will
because there's boycott
money or
what? Yeah. That's a fair point. Yeah. And this is the issue. I mean, it wasn't about me. It's about other people. It's about this being the fundamental practice. And by the way, it's not just Daily Wire, to be clear. This happens in this incestuous sphere across the board. What would you do? This is my question.
Real quick, let me ask. My concern is if people aren't familiar with the total context, you leave the Blaze, or in the process of, you're fielding offers, you receive a contract.
A term sheet, not a contract.
Yes, which people are semantically
predecessor to a contract, but
which is basically the terms they're offering for a contract.
Right.
Some people have argued, but the point is, they basically said you will be penalized 25% if you get a strike.
No, if you're demonetized.
If you're demonetized.
Then another 20% if there's a strike. Then another 20%, I don't remember the numbers for Facebook, for Spotify, but there's also another penalty if your sponsors get boycotted. There's also another penalty if you don't agree to 10%, if you deny 10% of the sponsors, which is probably like you, we probably accept 1 out of 5 sponsors. But let me just kind of go through this timeline really quickly.
For people who are trying to understand what's going on, it's basically the contract you received, specifically outlined
term
YouTube,
sheet. Yeah,
the term sheet you received.
I don't know that matters.
Said YouTube.
You don't put something in a term sheet that you don't want in a contract.
Right.
Nope.
It said YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and Facebook.
Yeah.
Specifically, if these big tech companies are upset with you, we dock your pay.
Yes.
That's an important
Well,
distinction.
hold on. It's not even dock his pay. I want to be very clear here. This is a production house. This is our budget that gets docked. Steven is not just taking, this is not basketball where you pay Kyrie Irving to go out and shoot hoops, right?
Sure.
You're paying an entire team of people to produce.
Before we get to like the finance,
let's go to the
timeline. Let me ask you this. If someone publicly was going, and by the way, I'm not going to be doing the personal stuff. I'm not going to be coming in here calling anybody a bitch, right? Sending out hatchet people. I understand why Candace was mad. Honestly, I understand why she was. I'd probably be mad too. So I don't think it's an excuse to go and talk the way like every girl does who gets their husband into a fight at a bar. But I understand why she was upset. If you had the ability, if someone's going out saying, hey, you're a difficult person who only cares about the money, and that you're a bitch, and you had the opportunity to clear it in because it was verifiably untrue, which now no one is arguing, would you do it? How else would people switch from it was about a $50 million salary to recording a phone call? Do we allow when James O'Keefe does it? Is it only when corruption is on the side of the left? And here's the issue: I'll tell you who this hurts. The dishonesty. I'm not just saying Daily Wire. This is about the entire movement as a whole. There are a lot of practices that go on, and it hurts the sponsors, hurts the creators, hurts the viewers, hurts the investors. And by investors with us, it's entirely Mug Club. It's people who pay to subscribe. We don't make a dime off of YouTube. We haven't for many years, and it hurts. If you believe what we say we believe, the movement in the country as a whole. So that right there, is fundamentally and the gaslighting still keeps taking place. Candace Owens on this show said, "Hey, we all follow the same guidelines. Right? We all follow. Crowder does too. That's verifiably false." Now, so you can publicly audit this. We've had 4 strikes. right? In the last, since May, I think 2021 to October 2022. One was Mekhi Bryant. One was a sketch with Alex Jones. That one's guilty. One was one was him quoting the CDC. By the way, none of this will get you in trouble because you can say this now. Him quoting the CDC, bringing up the CDC numbers on flu deaths for children versus COVID. And we're saying this is interesting science, right? That COVID kills more senior citizens, but for some reason is significantly less lethal to young people, to infants. That science is accepted now, so you won't get a strike. But that was one of the strikes. The other was when we had Carrie Lake on in a gubernatorial election. 4. How many have taken place from Daily Wire? You guys, 0. Now, here's the thing. I'm not saying it's a badge of honor. I'm not saying it's a badge of honor to be suspended. If they came out and said, look, we demand, as Jeremy said in his 55-minute video, we demand that all of our creators follow these rules that YouTube and Facebook set through punitive practices in mandating of our creators to do so. And Crowder's a little bit more of a rebel. You know what? He's been banned for 4 times. And that's not the same kind of, that's not a problem. The problem is saying that we all follow the same rules because so that's all publicly verifiable. Now, I could tell you guys behind the scenes, had many conversations with senior YouTube executives who say, we might be looking at remonetized if you kind of play ball like these guys, Daily Wire, and insert other people here. I could tell you that, but would you believe me? What after 5 receipts? I can tell you that takes place. That hurts the creators out there who end up, hitting a glass ceiling that is set, the sandbox that is mandated their creators. The same thing happens with sponsors.
Let me ask you, what does that mean, play ball? Like, obviously you're paraphrasing, but...
Yeah, paraphrasing. Titles, subjects, not talk about this subject or not talk about it in this way.
Yeah.
Maybe so often don't use these words. Maybe change this a little bit. This happens a lot, right, behind the scenes, and that makes it impossible for independent content creators. The same thing happens, by the way. So that's gaslighting that you see right there. We all follow the same rules. It was about money, then it's about a phone call. With sponsors, look.
But if I could ask you, did YouTube reach out to you and say, hey, do you want to play ball with us?
We have conversations all the time with YouTube. Matter of fact, I can tell you that here's the thing. I'm not going to be providing receipts to people who don't want to be involved. Right? There's a difference between single party consent state and wiretapping. You don't rope people in who are victims, but if it's an entity that you believe is predatory, that's the difference. There are good people at YouTube. There are some good people there who want, but their hands are tied. And guess what? Everyone else's hands are tied. If you say, hey, we're all trying to fight this system that exists, but you're not. You're mandating that you exist within the system. Only one person is saying, hey, you know what? If you want to be monetized and you don't, that's fine. And one is saying, you have to fit into this box.
Very important context to this is, obviously, after you put out the first video, I've talked to a bunch of my friends, and they said, look, Daily Wire's trying to run a business. If he gets banned off YouTube, how are they going to sell ads? How are they going to do sponsorships where his views are gone?
Yeah.
And I've seen people tweet, all of Crowder's views come from YouTube anyway, so he'd basically be unmonetizable if he was banned. And then I point out, first of all, that's just categorically false.
It's not true.
Because Rumble exists. And
Ben streamed there for the first time today.
And this is an important context. The contract you were offered says Facebook, Apple, I said YouTube, Apple, Facebook, Spotify, but it didn't mention any reviews from any other platforms. And there's Google Podcasts. They get views. I know the numbers. Obviously, it's not the same as Apple, but it's interesting to me that for a lot of people, like Dan Bongino, for instance, had more subscribers on Rumble than YouTube.
Yeah.
It's interesting then that their attitude is, if you're banned from YouTube, it's a 20% fee reduction, which you mentioned includes your staff salary, 25.
And then 25 and then another 20. It's 45. In other words, for us, right off the bat. And this is the thing. It's like, is it?
But he would also get ad reads, so he would be reading the ads that Daily Wire has on the show on YouTube, which would get a lot of views for their ad reads. So,
Is this an accident? In other words, okay, we're good.
Well,
but hold on a second. Does anyone have a problem? Do you not believe me when I say we haven't been monetized on YouTube for 3 years? You all know that, right?
Of course.
Literally, we're not that close. 0 days, or did you have? So what happened is we were demonetized. How many years ago? Then someone accidentally demonetized us for like 4 months, and then demonetized. And then demonetized again. We're like, what happened? And they're like, yeah, actually, no, sorry, you're demonetized again. I was like, well, skunked again.
So what did we do to get monetized, basically?
But
that's the main answer, right?
I want to make sure this point is made clear for everybody, because this is a very important part of the argument when I heard it. If the point is you can't sell ads or build an audience because YouTube banned you and that's it, but you're getting 85% or more views on Rumble, the question is, why no penalty for getting banned from Rumble? Why is Rumble not a consideration in the contract at all? And why don't they simply say comparable views instead of the platform?
Right.
Like, if for every 1 million views per day you lose, we dock you.
I can answer you that question exactly.
So
it's fundamental to the business model. And I was informed of that. It is fundamental. In other words, there are plenty of options out there, right? He can tell you. I get excited when I walk out and I go, hey, how many people are tuning in live on YouTube? How many on Rumble? They go, oh, it's tips. There are more people on Rumble. Sure, I've been on YouTube for a long time, since 2006, but it doesn't mean that they don't change, right? And the issue is, I think it's a great thing to use these platforms. There's a huge difference, by the way, between being monetized and being on the platform.
Yeah.
But ultimately, if we believe what we say, we have to be trying to get to the point where we know that fast forward 5 years, you can't speak the truth on YouTube, certainly not if you want to be monetized. But there's this jockeying for position with people who they see as competition. And the issue here that I've always made clear is the locking in of these punitive contracts that mandate and enforce big tech policies and guidelines as a matter of business. And that hurts creators. And the same thing, by the way, when we're talking about misleading practices with sponsors, there's no problem, right? And this is all publicly verifiable. I want you guys to be able to audit this so that there don't have to be as many receipts.
okay, so that was interesting. Now, let's go back to Rakita Law, because he has some interesting stuff to say about Candace Owens and all this.
This is when you're dealing with someone who has never been the big boy in the room. And that's the best part of this. You know what we can infer from this spur count, from Candace Owens' reaction? I'm going to say it. Get off my screen, Candace. Candace, I'm talking to you. The thing you should be most mad about is that Daily Wire lowballed you and you didn't even know. You probably thought that you played it real big with your attorney. Oh yeah, we negotiated out those bad terms. We did this, we did that. And you're realizing in real time right now that you got played by Daily Wire. You got played. And you didn't know it, because the next words out of your mouth were, they discovered me when I was a young talent on YouTube. Crowder was advocating for your failure. He was trying to protect the next Candace Owens, and you're too dumb to realize it. She's never been the big boy in the room. You can hear it. You can hear it. She's appalled that Crowder would dare to walk away from the deal. Listen to her. She can't even fathom the idea of walking away. That's why I rewinded it 10 seconds. Listen, she has no idea what it's like to say, no, I'm bigger than this deal. I walk. And she's going to reinforce it with shit I haven't even heard yet, because I have the gift of listening to people and hearing what's underneath. Why is she so mad? All we can ask is, why is she so fucking mad about this? Oh, shit. I need to renegotiate my contract. They're going to pay him $50 million? No, just what you do is you have your lawyer negotiate. Nope, not always. Sometimes you just go, yeah, bye. And you turn around and you walk away. She can't even understand what that is.
Okay, well, I bet Candace didn't like that. Also probably explains why she's might be so upset for no reason and lashing out crazily at Crowder. Okay, okay, and then you had Candace Owens and the extortion thing where she starts threatening him and saying there's something going on in his life, right? Et cetera, et cetera. So let's see what he had to say about that.
Many other people knew about this behind the scenes. Some, not all, but some of them in positions of power, influence, leverage, knew of this. They also knew that the safety of my children included keeping it private. So if you're familiar with the idea of extortion, then you know the feeling well. Now, some of these threats were so thinly veiled that I'm frankly surprised you didn't all guess immediately.
Stephen has a lot going on. I guess is the best way to say it. He has a lot going on, and that should be clear, because people don't do stuff like this if there's not a lot going on in their life. I would like to implore my audience and everybody that is paying attention to this situation not to condemn him, but to pray for him.
That was conservative talk show host Steven Crowder announcing that he was going through a divorce and appearing to accuse another conservative commentator, Candace Owens, of doing something akin to extortion. Here's more.
Some other issues have been, or I should say, inferences have been more pernicious behind the scenes, with demands and threats to use this information that they believe would be so publicly embarrassing to me and my wife at a difficult time that it could be used, knowingly putting my children in harm's way. So to those self-styled Christians, conservatives, and allies, well, not in my book. Now, if you find yourself, I don't want to get into details, so this is going to likely be the only time I have to address this or want to address this. If you're asking yourself, hey, did X person or did Y person know? The answer is likely yes, which will be made alarmingly clear as this process of discovery continues. And it also, by the way, makes me that much more appreciative of those who did know about this and in understanding the best interests of my family, my children, kept their word and used discretion.
Candace Owens responded on Twitter saying, quote, Steven Crowder accusing me of extortion is so patently insane that it honestly makes me question how there are still people who cannot see how thoroughly undone he has become. This is not stable behavior. He is a man on a spiral. Outright bizarre and concerning.
So we should do a little bit of a flashback here, what led to this level of acrimony between Candace Owens and the Daily Wire more broadly and Steven Crowder. Crowder had some weeks ago conversations, a very preliminary conversation with the Daily Wire about maybe coming aboard. Daily Wire being the conservative news giant entertainment institution that features Ben Shapiro and Jordan Peterson and Matt Walsh and some others. And Candace Owens. Yeah. So they had made a very just preliminary offer, like, well, here's what an offer might look like. It was bonkers bucks, millions and millions and millions of dollars.
It was the $50 million offer, right?
Yes, I believe so, yes. But it had some stipulations, and it was still, their point of view was, we're still going to negotiate it, but here's the eye-popping number we're trying to hook you with, and then we'll try to reel in with negotiations. Crowder was insulted by it, not so much by the dollar figure, which is a huge amount of money, but that they would subtract from some of that if he ended up getting banned on several different social media sites, something he thought was quite likely, and in fact, he had been banned before. He might have even been demonetized on YouTube at the time. So then he's like, you're silencing me. You're agreeing with big tech to silence me. You're colluding with them in this effort of censorship. Are we fighting this as conservatives? And then they said, I think kind of reasonably, that we're not saying we endorse what social media is doing to you. We're trying to build an alternative platform, but you primarily would make money for us by being on those platforms. So you're just not going to be, if you're not making that much money, you're expecting us to just take a loss. But we could further negotiate it. But instead of you having that conversation with us, he secretly recorded surreptitiously Jeremy Boring, who's the head of the Daily Wire, and then he tried to embarrass them based on that. And he went full scorched earth against them, accusing them of like putting young conservatives, like treating them like they're on a plantation or something.
Yeah. And part of the posture of this, right, was that he first publicly blew up the offer and said he was being treated really unfairly. Yeah. And he had a lot of public support until the actual number in the deal came out, because he was really posturing like they were trying to exploit him. They were undervaluing his worth. He, like you say, he was like kind of
Yeah, but then that was pushed by Candace Owens to make it sound like he was being ridiculous when he was not. That money, that amount of money was not actually appropriate for him. But that's the narrative that they tried to spin with that. Okay, and so while Candace Owens was attacking Crowder and God only knows who else, she was also doing other things that were being offensive. Let's check that out.
So I'll just, we'll play this clip, and I want you, I have to wonder how this appeals to the actual working people in her audience, because there has to be, there are working people in her audience that she's talking about here, and that she's so clearly, these people talk about liberal elites and snobbery, and Adam and I agree with them in this critique. A lot of times we see what they're saying, and we agree, and we say, yes, a lot of people, a lot of liberals, quote unquote, can be really weird about working people and about people from the South particularly, but especially like poor working people. There's just some weird paternalistic, snobbery that goes on among liberal elites. But I don't understand how the folks who say that in one breath don't hear this from Candace Owens and say the exact same thing about her. Let's listen to what she had to say.
Which is why it's not worth us saying anything more, in my opinion. I don't know what the Daily Wire is going to say about it further. But the reason why this doesn't really matter is I think that people are really seeing just how nasty what you did was. And I think that I would hope that you would come to terms with the fact that you owe everybody an apology, that this was never necessary, that you can start whatever company you want. You don't get to step in like a socialist, and it is socialist-like. These are the demands that you hear. People are trying to establish a union when the Amazon workers have walked out because they have decided that they are worth more, that they should have 3-hour lunch breaks. They've gotten their contract from Amazon, and they realize that their lunch breaks are only 1 hour, and that they're worth more, that they should have 3-hour lunch breaks. They've gotten their contract from Amazon, and they realize that their lunch breaks are only 1 hour, and that they're required to show up to work, and they think they should be able to work from home for 3 days a week post-COVID, and they walk out and they want to stage a union. And this is the big con, it's Amazon. No, this is the free markets. And so to Tim Pool, what I would say, and I like Tim Pool, and I think that he is always very kind to all of his guests that he has on his show. But when he says that he doesn't think $50 million is enough, I would like to say that the free markets will answer that question, right? It doesn't look like anybody's come to him with an offer that's bigger.
Well, you heard it here, folks. If you ask for a raise, that's socialism.
There's just so much there that's so, just so gross. For one, the idea that Amazon workers have an hour for lunch is, and
if they're asking for 3 hours for lunch,
right? Just look at her set.
What kind of lunch breaks does she take every day?
Yeah. Look at, she's wearing this fancy ass silk robe, in this, expensive looking studio, talking about how Amazon workers, presumably, because she even said they take an hour lunch with disdain, as if they wouldn't be worth an hour lunch. I think they should get an hour for lunch. I think they should be paid for it. And the idea that a company could be exploitative is just, she pretends not to understand that, but there's no way that she can actually believe that companies can't be exploitative. But if you admit that, as Crowder has, then this whole conservative capitalist propaganda really starts. You start pulling on that thread. If you pull on that thread and you say that, actually a contract that a worker agrees to voluntarily can be exploitative, you start pulling on that thread, and really the rest of it starts to come pretty quick after that, right? And so you can't admit that.
Yeah, and I think that's why she sort of frames it as if it's actually workers who are the exploiters or the aggressor in this, right? That they are the ones who are greedy. You give them an hour for lunch, they'll want 3 hours for lunch. And I think you're right on that. And one of the things that, to me, I think I'm starting to take away from some of these clips that we watch of these right-wing nuts is that there's these contradictions within the right-wing ethos in like conservative politics, because they are welded to free market ideology and to celebrating capital and capitalists. But at the same time, capital seeks profits, and it is willing to cannibalize anything and everything to squeeze out more profits. That includes going after the status quo at times, right? And so conservatives sometimes see their traditions under attack. They say it's wokeness, they say it's liberals, they say it's, anything and everything, but quite often it's just business, right?
Right.
The reason you see more diversity on advertisements now, the reason why you see interracial couples or homosexual couples on Cheerio commercials and things like that, I don't think it's because these companies are woke, whatever that means. I don't think it's because these companies have some deep hidden agenda to, go after white people or whatever it is that some folks think. It's just business. They just look at the demographics and say, how many markets can we attract in one advertisement? Hey, if we have one white person and one black person, that's more than if we just had one of one race, right? It's just common sense. But there's that contradiction there that capital, by seeking profits constantly, by seeking to always grow, right? You can't stagnate. You're always looking to grow. You're always looking for new opportunities to squeeze a profit. That means traditions can crumble under that weight. That means things will change from time to time, right? And those are things that bother conservatives.
Right.
Seeing those changes, seeing traditions under attack. But that's the rub. There is capital doesn't care about your traditions if it's more profitable to do away with them, right? So if it's more profitable to pay lip service to diversity, equity, and inclusion, and to have diverse advertisements, to put catchy slogans on the football field, that's what they're going to do.
Right.
And to conflate that with socialism is just so absurd, because it shows it just shows the deficits in their ideology that clearly you don't understand either socialism or capitalism.
Right.
Because how can you say that venture capitalists, that Wall Street firms are socialistic? How can you say that neoliberal imperialists are socialistic? It just defies reason. And so, those things they're always baffling. And it's, these
I agree. There's like always a lot of really weird contradictions that go on. I mean, even today, like I have a lot of issues with some of the stuff that goes on the way that you know, things happen, but people just aren't perfect. You know what I mean? Like life's never perfect, people aren't perfect, movements aren't perfect, ideologies aren't perfect.
Sure, of contradictions within this far right political culture. It's very frustrating to even be exposed to, and I imagine it's quite confusing to the people who are ingesting this stuff every day.
I don't see how it isn't, because, and especially as they are trying to, they've been trying this out for a few years, this idea that, the Republicans, the conservatives are actually representative of working class people.
And there's nothing new under the sun. I mean,
Right.
this ain't the first time that Republicans have done that.
But if you don't include Amazon workers in your conception of the working class in the year of our Lord 2023, how, because clearly she does not see Amazon workers as a constituency that she needs to appeal to.
Well, and I think this goes back to something we've talked about before in the show, where there's class as it relates to the economy and production and labor versus management and who owns what, right? Class in a traditional economic understanding of the term. But then there's class as like a cultural identity and a cultural affect. The way you dress, the way you look, the music you listen to, right? And so what I see from Republicans is when they are doing this posturing,
it's like cosplay.
It's cosplay. It's they want you to imagine, and they are imagining a particular type of worker. Maybe it's a blue collar worker, maybe they're not. But, it's more important that they listen to country music and they go to church and they drive a big pickup truck, right? And they watch regular TV, that they're not on all that fancy stuff. They have problems with Hollywood. It's all a cultural identity, not even tied to their relationship to the economy. Yeah, they're not talking about Amazon employees, Walmart employees, McDonald's employees. We know they're not talking about Starbucks baristas, right? They're not talking about teachers, God forbid. They're not talking about public sector employees, right? Because they're just lazy and incompetent and can never be fired for their poor performance. So, okay, you've eliminated all public sector workers. You've eliminated basically all the service industry.
Right.
So who is it that counts as?
Okay, so I have no idea who those people are, but apparently the messaging coming out from Candace Owens and the way that she behaves and acts and the weird stuff she says is confusing to these people who don't really understand who they're trying to appeal to and what is going on, right? Like what does it even mean? Like who are they trying to bring to their side? Because it's very confusing. And I imagine that it would be for people who are outside of the box watching and wondering why she's attacking everybody on their side. So she's making problems with everybody on their side. Then she's constantly offending everybody, like just attacking everybody all the time. Amazon workers now, teachers, like they were saying, baristas, So it's a very like if you're trying to get people to come to the conservative side, and this is one of your main talking heads to show people the benefits of being on the conservative side, she didn't do a very good job, uh okay, let's see what this guy has to say.
And Shapiro thing, this Daily Wire thing.
No, yeah.
But it is also important to keep the flame alive, because the more
the tomb of the unknown soldier.
Listen, the more that these guys fight, I honestly think the better for the country.
Yeah, there's no light without heat.
And just dropping in all these aphorisms. And so this is important. Listen, I want to make it clear. This is a disclaimer. Candace Owens is a horrible person, and
just a mercenary.
She's incredibly mercenary, and to that extent, there's some value in the moments where, but she's a horrible person, and this is not one of those things where I'm platforming someone I disagree with all the time. It is. I want to encourage this stuff to get out there to provoke Steven Crowder, who's also a horrible person.
Can I just say on that note, because I don't know if, I don't want to take credit for it, but I was the person who compared his contract to basketball player contracts. Now, the very first day that we knew the number amount, and Crowder is saying, these people are comparing it to basketball. I hope we're responsible for that.
Look, we know that Steven Crowder monitored this show. At the very least, the first the first day that we were that Ethan was supposed to debate him, and the second day.
Yep.
We know for a fact he did. He admitted it. It's hard to believe that he just started monitoring the show on that first Monday. I mean, he must have been aware of stuff prior to that. Even though he said, like, I have no idea who he is, which was sort of bizarre. I mean, I got news for you. Any show that we monitor, our audience is going to know who they are because we're going to play it. Anyways, here is Candace Owens. And remember, she's got some dirt on Crowder that she's saving, but Crowder's probably too meek of a man to continue this fight. And he's just going to crawl back into his spider hole. But we'll see. Here is Candace Owens with more charges against Steven Crowder. I hope he will address them because it's a little cucky. But go ahead.
All right, guys, we should cover, obviously, people have been following the back and forth between the Daily Wire and Steven Crowder, who launched this movement, if you want to call it that, Stop a Big Con, after he received a $50 million, not contract, but a term sheet, essentially a conversation starter from the Daily Wire, and then kind of came back and said, well, I don't think $50 million is enough. $120 million would be better. Daily Wire said, we're not going to play ball for $120 million. And Steven Crowder then took a couple of months to gather his thoughts, then decided to call our CEO, Jeremy Boring, and to record him, to take him out of context, and to release all of this onto the internet, and said, oh, actually, I was never going to take this contract. I think that they're big cons because they're colluding somehow with big tech because they're on YouTube. He's on YouTube, but Daily Wire is not demonetized, and he is. You know the whole back and forth going into it. Yesterday, he went on to Tim Pool. He heavily advertised his appearance and said, I'm going to be on tonight. I'm going to answer all the questions. What actually happened was he answered none of the questions.
I agree.
He dodged a lot of the questions. And Tim Pool, who I like very much, did not push back on this. And that was very much the consensus in the comments and the consensus on Twitter was, why didn't you ask him about his own employee contracts? He soured a lot of relationships with his former employees, spend the computer, not gay Jared. No questions were asked about that throughout the entire
I mean, listen, I agree that Tim Pool did not ask any of the hard questions. It was clearly a softball interview. It was clearly Tim Pool is aligning himself against the Daily Wire. It's disgusting because I think a lot of people feel that Tim Pool is a fair arbiter and he tries to look at these things fairly, but it's quite clear that because Tim Pool is independent, supposedly, he's sort of tacitly attacking the Daily Wire. When you don't ask hard questions of somebody coming on, attacking the Daily Wire, it's quite clear that Tim Pool is also attacking the Daily Wire.
You're a vehicle for attacking the Daily Wire.
Candace Owens, obviously, she likes Tim Pool. She's wrong about that. You shouldn't like Tim Pool. She shouldn't. Anyone shouldn't. But I also think that Tim Pool should not like Candace Owens. I think nobody should like Candace Owens. So it's really...
I love Tim Pool. I always have really liked him, and I still do. I don't know who this guy is.
Interesting here. There's, but so far her recap was accurate. It's just factual. And the lack of questions that Tim Pool offered, I'm really surprised by that because I thought Tim was would get to the bottom of this.
He's such a good journalist. I mean,
he really, not only did he not get to the bottom, he almost put a false bottom on it. I was really surprised by that. And I'm really taken back. His journalism.
Expected more of his journalism.
Yeah, really rusty, weird. But anyways, let's hear what else Candace Owens has to say.
on Twitter was, why didn't you ask him about his own employee contracts? He soured a lot of relationships with his former employees, Sven the computer, not gay Jared. No questions were asked about that throughout this entire interview. About whether or not he was holding them, and they were not allowed to speak out on why those relationships that he's had with his own employees have soured, or why none of his employees are speaking up on his behalf. It's kind of an interesting contrast that you have.
Well, to be fair, the small amount that we watched on that Crowder on Tim Pool, and Tim Pool could barely talk. Every time he tried to talk, remember, Crowder kept going in.
The Daily Wire that are upset, understandably, of how we have been portrayed by somebody who alleges he was a great friend of Jeremy Boring and Ben Shapiro. But you don't see this on the side of Steven Crowder. And
I also, I think there's some truth to this too. And I will say this: every one of the employees here, I think, and you guys can speak up if I'm in any way putting, misquoting you or mischaracterizing your sentiments. But you all think that Crowder's wrong in this, and you also think that Daily Wire's wrong in this, right? And Candace Owens, speak up. I'm not going to, whatever, you have your own opinions.
Well, I think Crowder should hold out for as much as he's worth as a worker and should stand up to these corporate folks that want to censor him. So keep fighting, dig in your heels, and prepare for the long fight.
That's what we like around here in the Majority Report. We have a difference of opinion. I think that he should definitely be, attacking more of these coercive contracts and employment situations. I think that's important. But at the same time, I also think Crowder, not good. And so.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. He should be agitating with these contract negotiations and continuing to leak them, please. Yeah.
There should be more leaks on both sides. All of it should be released.
And he's not going to make it about censorship and about the worker power. But anyway, go ahead.
A lot of relationships, not just the Daily Wire, all across the board, speak to any conservative company, big or small. They don't like to work with him. And he has been very nasty to people behind the scenes. I'm just telling you what I know. You can fact check me in your own capacity. Now, two things that he said during this interview.
I don't believe her at all. The only thing I remember anybody saying anything was the drama with the not gay Jared dude. And I don't know what all that was about, but like interpersonal drama can get really weird. And then not gay Jared couldn't talk about it because he has an NDA or whatever, which that's normal. Like, people have NDAs with companies or whatever. And then people made like a really big deal about it. And it was like, oh, he can't say, so it's like nobody really knows. So, and I don't believe her when she says like other people, like, we know that she lies now at this point, right? So might have not known then, but we do now.
He first tried to assert, and I want to point this because this was really so crucial to me.
It could be.
Was that if he received this term sheet and he was just so outraged by the terms and it was completely a non-starter, why did he come back to the Daily Wire with a $120 million offer? And what you'll see is that he says, we never did that. And then he very quickly says, maybe my agent or manager did do that. And then changes the subject very quickly.
Pause it. Listen, I want to make it clear. Candace Owens probably watches this because we did that yesterday.
Yeah, we dwelled on that moment.
Yep. And what time does she do her show?
Good question.
Right after we do ours?
Yeah,
we're basically
take the time code.
We basically, here's the thing. These guys never ever have to do any critical thinking on their show.
Media Matters posted this at 5:16 p.m. Eastern, so
Here's the bottom line. These shows never have to do any critical thinking. And so there's probably every reason to believe they're watching us, getting their ideas, and we're feeding it back. So that's why we do this, so that they have, content and points to make. But that's exactly what we said yesterday. But
maybe my agent did do that. It's essentially you saying, yeah, that happened. We countered. Take a listen to Steven Crowder.
There's a clip of counter offer because I'm seeing a lot of you guys say.
There was the agent, I think my agent, first they sent this term sheet. The agent said, well, if you're talking about 100% ownership, by the way, in perpetuity forever, meaning it's a 6-year contract with no option to negotiate.
He's just galloping away now.
Locked in at that rate. And again, right, how do you penalize someone for money that they don't make? They're not going to lose money on you being demonetized. Now I get them a special situation, but this is demanded of everybody.
So there you go. It's no. Actually, I think my agent maybe, again, it was about whether or not it's going to be 6 years. Pretty obvious, should be very obvious to every single person that essentially what he's saying is, well, maybe my agent, yes, your agent got back and said $120 million.
At least you could do is at least do a better impression of me. She's taken all my lines, but that's all right. Go ahead, continue. That's okay.
And you knew that this was taking place. And I don't even, like I said, I'm past anger with the situation. I do feel bad for him because I know more what's going on in the background.
I'm actually into full-on joy. I don't think I was ever in anger with this. I've been enjoying for a long time. I've been enjoying it. I was just saying, she's past anger. I've been enjoying this whole time. Like I've vacillated, to be fair, I've vacillated between joy and total elation. So, but it's both. Sometimes I'm elated, sometimes I'm just joyful. All right, continue.
It was a starting conversation. You knew that this was taking place. And I don't even, like I said, I'm past anger with the situation. I do feel bad for him because I know more what's going on in the background. And I do believe this is a man that is spiraling. But it's so important that we inject truth into this. And you cannot say that you were so offended by a contract, so offended, so mortally wounded by the concept of a contract that your agent, as if you guys don't speak, went back and said, okay, $120 million. And then that, you're right. After that, Daily Wire never came back with any other term sheet. It was never a contract whatsoever. And then the second thing, which I thought was borderline delusional, was him likening himself to James O'Keefe when people are rightfully outraged, irrespective of what you thought about this term sheet. You would record your friend and then release contents of the conversation chopped up so people can't discern the context whatsoever. Here's what he had to say about that.
If you had the ability, if someone's going out saying, hey,
I don't even need to hear this part anymore because I disagree with that. I would record every one of these vultures and vipers.
And we don't think much of James O'Keefe to get mad at him being invoked.
No, there you go. But listen, I honestly, Candace, if you're watching this, I think you need to be more explicit on what's going on here. I think you let's go to where she rejects the O'Keefe comparison. Let's just do that.
and speaking to individuals and executives, trying to figure out whether they are intentionally harming individuals, whether or not they are intentionally poisoning individuals, whether or not they are intentionally censoring individuals like they are doing over at Twitter, whether or not they are targeting our freedoms, our constitutional freedoms, like the freedom of speech. Okay, that is such serious, important work. I am one of James O'Keefe's biggest cheerleaders and supporters, because I have watched him from the beginning, how hard and the effort that he has made to build what he has. And to align yourself, to pretend that there is a manner or any path for you to align yourself with his work in terms of what you did, makes it sound like James O'Keefe is so small and so petty. And
yeah, I'll agree with that. He is small and petty. There's no doubt about that. So I guess that one, I think Crowder wins on that chord.
They think of James O'Keefe like Robert Caro or something.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Like Daniel Ellsberg. Like,
yeah.
Be deeply offended that you put yourself in his same category. The truth, and I think that the internet was able to see this, which is why it's not worth us saying anything more, in my opinion. I don't know what the Daily Wire is going to say about it further.
Oh,
but the reason why this doesn't really matter is I think that people are really seeing just how nasty what you did was, and I think that I would hope that you would come to terms with the fact that you owe everybody an apology, that this was never necessary, that you can start whatever company you want. You don't get to step in like a socialist, and it is socialist-like. These are the demands that you hear. People are trying to establish a union when the Amazon workers have walked out because they have decided that they are worth more, that they should have 3-hour lunch breaks. They've gotten their contract from Amazon, and they realize that their lunch breaks are only 1 hour, and that they're required to show up to work, and they think they should be able to work from home for 3 days a week post-COVID, and they walk out and they want to stage a union. And this is the big con. It's Amazon. No, this is the free markets. And so to Tim Pool, what I would say, and I like Tim Pool, and I think that he is always
Well, no.
Okay, so her causing fights with everyone and causing a bunch of drama obviously gives all these other people that are on the other side all kinds of ammunition and fun stuff that they can have content to go over and make fun of conservatives. So that's great. Okay, let's see. So when she's not attacking Nicole Arbor, Kim Klacik, a whole host of other people, Steven Crowder, putting her nose in his business for some reason, she's also just attacking pretty much everyone else under the sun. Amazon workers. Let's see.
To be clear, LeBron is a well-meaning person. I don't think LeBron means to do bad. I just don't think he's that smart. I really do. I think LeBron James is low IQ.
Why do you say that, though?
Because I've heard him speak about issues, and he's so wrong. But I think he carries with him an arrogance, which isn't hard when you're being called a king. Right? And he's an incredible talent. There's no doubt about that. He's an incredible talent. It's very hard to level yourself and to say,
what on earth? Like, the stuff that she says, it's all, because these are all things she does, right? It's crazy to me.
Okay, I can be really talented, but also not be educated about something, right? And if you are not educated about something, you shouldn't speak on it.
Would you rather him be quiet, though?
I would rather him be quiet than tell his people that follow him a lie. Yeah, 100%. It's better to be quiet than to be lying.
Think it's a lie, right?
But that's what I'm saying. So I think for him, he needs to do the work of actually becoming educated about these issues. And it's not hard. I always say he's not a Kobe. I don't know how to explain it. I absolutely loved Kobe, and I think Kobe was extremely educated, and he just wasn't someone that the media could play.
But Kobe didn't voice his opinion as much as LeBron.
There might be a reason for that.
I mean, like, jeez, dude. And then while she's at the Daily Wire, let's see what she has to say about everybody that she's going to trash in this clip.
You and Cardi B go back and forth.
Yeah.
I like Cardi B.
I liked her in Love and Hip Hop a lot.
Why do you guys go back and forth? And also, I don't even think you guys really go back and forth about actual, intellectual ideas. It's just kind of like...
She tries to play on the court of intellectuality, and that drives me crazy, right? So let me tell you when Cardi B caught my attention, right? I don't care. Cardi B, you want to rap, you want to do whatever you want to do, whatever. I liked her better in Love and Hip Hop when she had bad teeth, personally, because she was fun. She seemed happier in a weird way. And, sometimes more money, more problems, things get more serious. I get it. But, when she was selected by the Biden administration to answer questions on behalf of the Black community, and I knew what he was going to represent. So all of these taxes of course, they sat down and they think we're stupid, right? Do you think of all of the people that the Biden...
I thought she started to speak, and then people kept looking at her for answers.
No, this is when he was running, okay?
Oh, okay.
This is when he was running, when she had the super long nails and she interviewed him, and during COVID, no one could get interviewed Biden, and they picked Cardi B to interview Biden. Remember that? I think she was wearing like a green...
I forgot about that.
Okay, so think about that moment.
Who cares?
Joe Biden will give interviews
She
to no
can
one.
do
He's claiming
whatever she
COVID, blah, blah, blah. He's not a single freaking rally. He's cars honking in front of him for a little bit.
I thought it was a little senile, though. I ain't gonna lie.
Someone on his team decides that Joe Biden should allow Cardi B to interview him. Now, what is the reason for that? This is how I think, right?
Tapping the culture?
Yeah. Black people are stupid. We don't need to talk to them about any of these. Like, why didn't they pick me? Why didn't they forget me? Black community maybe doesn't like me at that time. Talking about Black Lives Matter. You don't have Killer Mike. Why don't you pick a smarter representative from the Black community than Cardi B? Okay, and she acted like Cardi B. Like there were some serious questions that should have been asked in that moment. We knew, at least in the conservative side, right? She did. She was like super long nails. She didn't even have to speak English. Fine, I like Cardi if she's on a podcast about hip hop. But when you are driving Black Americans to vote for this candidate, and now Black Americans, what's up with these gas prices?
Wait, hold on,
I can tell you what's up with them. He was always going to do this. If you understood who Joe Biden was and knew his record, if you had had someone out there actually trying to tell you this is coming around the corner. They had you, again, going back to Malcolm X quote, believing that Donald Trump was your enemy. You guys were all living better under Donald Trump. You don't want to admit it because you're not allowed to say it, you're not allowed to say it, right? You were all living better under Trump. You had jobs. The gas prices were the lowest they've ever been. You were living good, but the media said, hate him, hate him.
I ain't gonna lie. That's why my stocks go back, man. That's why I got to get him out of here.
He intentionally crashed the market. We were telling you that this dude was a socialist. We were telling you that he was going to shrink the middle class. He was literally installed to shrink the middle class, right? He all this green energy.
Some people argue though.
All he has to do right now is turn the pipelines on. We literally, America we have our own gas here. All he has to do is turn pipelines on. Oh, well, green energy. We want you to have electric cars. Can you afford a $55,000 electric car? If you had an intelligent person that was interviewing him, okay, Black America may have seen that coming around the corner. I saw it coming around the corner, but oh gosh, she was behind Trump. Okay, well then you know what? I don't feel bad for you when you flip your ticket. It's $105.
Wait. Honest question. Do you really think that? So if some people I hear argue that, they would say, well, the economy was going to crash anyway,
no.
or
how can you just? It's such foolishness. You just keep thinking every time.
It's one of those things where they're like, hey, listen,
it's stupidity.
It happened while
it was just
Biden's in
amazing
office.
when Trump was in office for all 4 years, and then right when Biden got in, instantly gas prices went up. And I love the lie of the Putin war. They were going up like crazy before Ukraine and Russia were ever even fighting, and they think you're stupid, right? So the idea is Black America's stupid. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep toting out whoever we think is popular in Black America during election time. Never call them ever again, but expect Black Americans to vote that way. So in this election, it was Cardi B. Before that, when Hillary was running, she touted out Jay-Z and Beyonce, talking about why I don't like them, right? Because
Hillary pulled out the hot sauce out the purse. That was crazy.
And Charlemagne let it fly. He basically, what did he say? He was like, well, some people might say you're pandering. I would have been like, why did you do that?
Biden was wilding too. It's like, if you ain't black if you don't vote for them. I'm like, damn. God damn.
Charlemagne let that fly too.
I mean, you touted I think you called it the Lexit, right? Like,
yeah.
Just black people at least, just exiting, just unilaterally just voting for Democrats. I agree with that too. Why do you think that it's just always, it feels like a snowball effect as soon as there's a major election coming up and just there's no voices that's really taking both sides and comparing to really make a legitimate choice. I'm not saying you got to go either way. It just always feels like, hey, the race is decided in the Democratic primaries. And once you get the guy, basically that's the guy. We don't care about what the other guy says.
Because independent thinking is not popular in the Black community, and people don't like to hear that, but it's the truth. We're so wrapped up in culture and in what cultural icons think. The idea, what kind of a community, is calling Beyonce queen? Then when Beyonce queen says vote for Hillary, you do it, right? Because you actually think she's a queen. This is why people need to go back to the Bible. And the Bible talks about the harms of idolatry, and this is why, right? Hollywood is evil. That concept of idolizing people.
That's why I'm saying, like, she didn't have very good reach with the Black community in America, for sure.
You can like their music, but stop idolizing them.
Queen Bee.
You know what I mean? Like, you gotta compartmentalize. You can say, I like Cardi B on Love and Hip Hop. I did. I liked her. She's very funny on Love and Hip Hop, actually. She was very funny on Love and Hip Hop, right? But I'm not listening to a word she says when she and talks to freaking Biden. Like, but the Black community can't do it. They just go, oh, well, this is what we're all doing, I guess. And people get on the airwaves, they don't ask them difficult questions, and they just go, oh, this is what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to vote Democrat for no reason. It's never worked for us, but we're just gonna keep doing it anyways.
Well, some might say like both things could be true though, in the sense of like, for example, like they would say what you're saying is kind of doing what they've done to LeBron, like shut up and dribble, right? Where
he should shut up and dribble because he won't actually have an intellectual discussion. So when somebody says shut up and dribble to LeBron or shut up and rap to Cardi B, there is a way to say, okay, I'm not just this and I want to be authentic and have these discussions. If any of them are being authentic, they would be the Killer Mikes. Killer Mike talks to people on both sides. He does. You can see that he's trying to actually present both sides of the argument. Where in Cardi B's entire repertoire has she presented any other thing but vote Democrat? That makes her a billboard. That makes her an advertisement and a marketing
Does
campaign.
she need to though? Imagine if she's like, hey, listen, people like me who think like me, and if they're influenced by me.
Yo, that's the same thing you were. What are you talking about? Like, oh my gosh.
At least I'm in that position to
But
talk
did she
to him.
explain why she said vote for Democrat? No, because there's no reason to. There's not even one reason. Actually, a colleague of mine wrote a book called Reasons to Vote for Democrats. It's 100 empty pages because there's not one. There's not one reason. Okay? There literally isn't. If you're a Black American, you're voting Democrat, you're out of control. It means you know nothing about the way you're living, how you got to where you're living, what's going on outside. It's political ignorance for Black Americans to vote for Democrats. It really is.
Okay. Like Kim Klacik explained, most of the places where Black people live, there are no Republicans running to vote for. This video is probably getting pretty long. But before we end it, let's see how Steven Crowder thinks about Candace Owens today. Shall we? Okay. This is fairly recent.
They're going to get Tucker Boulevard. They already did. They did in Israel. They gave him freaking bullet. It's like, as soon as they gave you a boulevard and a holiday, they definitely killed you. Okay, there's no question. They killed you. There's no way. That's like their signature thing. It's like, that's what they do. It's the Fed signature. It's when they sign off after they murder you.
Candace Owens is an evil. Just as I was about to go live on air, I was made aware, and you guys can correct me if I'm getting anything wrong, because this is coming in live. Candace Owens outright saying, and I want to be careful with my words here because she's not, and I know she'll give herself an out and say that's not what I was implying. But you watch this clip in its entirety, and it seems pretty blatant that she's saying, and people are interpreting it this way, which is also important, that the Trump administration, not whatever it was, we went from underground Jew tunnels, Mossad, the Trump administration killed Charlie Kirk.
I just really needed to just take a breather and really process everything that happened with Charlie and what it kind of means in terms of where we are. And I think it is a circumstance where we just know.
We just know that he was truly betrayed in one of the most egregious ways that I think I've ever seen. It has made me lose faith in politics. It has made me fully lose faith in Trump. And my heart aches for the fact that he gave so much of his life to Trump and to politics. And they just were like, nope, that is it. It serves us or doesn't serve us, and we want to move on. And so here's a holiday. Bro, if they try to give me a holiday, what is with them giving people a holiday after they kill them? Why is that a thing? You know what I mean? Like, oh, Martin Luther King, what about this holiday? What about this boulevard? Anyways, let me knock it off. Like, they're gonna get Charlie Kirk Boulevard. They already did. They did in Israel. They gave him freaking boulevard. It's like, as soon as they give you a boulevard and a holiday, they definitely killed you. Okay, there's no question. They killed you. There's no way. That's like their signature thing. It's like, that's what they do. It's the Fed signature. It's how they sign off after they murder you. So like holiday and a boulevard. And it's never on a nice side of town either. Like Charlie Kirk Boulevard's not gonna be a nice side of town. Anyways, I will be back on the 27th, you guys. Thank you guys for all the support throughout these couple of weeks, these last really kind of 6 weeks since Charlie died. And we will see you guys then.
Well, let me first be tactful here and tell you that outrageous claims, and this is an outrageous claim, require outrageous evidence. Of course, as is par for the course, none has been presented. And I know that there might be a weaseling here saying, oh, well, I said the Fed, not the Trump administration. I said a boulevard in Israel. It's pretty clear, not clear. What she said was, they, the Fed, give you a boulevard when that's a sure sign that they have killed you. You know that they have killed you. He was betrayed in the worst way possible, giving so much of his life to the Trump presidency, to politics. The federal government, the Trump administration killed Charlie Kirk is the claim. Now I'm going to tell you how I feel about it, what I think about it. Because you know who else would have to be involved? And this is the implication, of course, by design. And you can see the response with people out there saying, oh, well, then anyone who's close to, this is an inside job. You know who's really close to President Trump? And you know who people are now saying stood to gain? Well, Charlie's wife, Erica Kirk, who has now been put, Candace with that language, with this accusation, has put the wife of Charlie Kirk, and she'll say, that's not what I tried to do. It is. It's the result. Erica Kirk in the crosshairs. It's not like you have to look through 6 degrees of separation. And you can see post after post and article after article with both Kirks, but certainly Erica, praising, thanking President Trump, discussing how important his support has been. So if the Trump administration, if the Fed killed Charlie Kirk, look, there's no middle ground here right now. Either Erica Kirk is evil and was in on it, or Candace Owens is an evil. I hope I'm being really clear about that. And saying, well, we shouldn't connect all the dots just is not an excuse when there is a grieving family right now who's not just left holding the bag, but you know very well will put Erica Kirk in the crosshairs. Let me ask you this. If you were killed and someone out there for clicks, clickbait, headlines, went out and espoused conspiracy theories with zero evidence that put your wife or your husband in the crosshairs, where you knew after you had passed that the person you love was going to have to deal with fallout and accusations of killing you and villainized, it'd probably be as close to coming back as a haunting as you could possibly hope for, right? Either Erica Kirk is in on this, and just to be clear, that's obviously rhetoric. Of course she's not. And of course, there's no evidence that she was. And of course, there will be some very unstable people, which is by design from Candace, who will accuse me of being paid by the Trump administration or Mossad or whatever it is. Insert all the crap here. Either Erica Kirk is evil and conspired with the Trump administration to kill her husband, Charlie Kirk, to assassinate him in cold blood, or Candace Owens has officially crossed the Rubicon to evil. Tell me if you disagree, and we'll take your chat on it later. But those are my initial thoughts. And I'm going to call it, going to weasel out. And I didn't say that, and I didn't imply that, and we're just asking questions. You need to do better. One final thing. People have talked about this. Is it true? Is it not? Is that actually the psyop where the left has wanted to drive a wedge between those on the right? Do you think that fracturing those on the right over a baseless conspiracy that the most effective president in modern American history killed one of the most effective public figures in modern American history, who survived by his wife, who happens to be very close with a supportive president? I couldn't think of a more effective wedge issue. So either way, if it's stupidity or it's proactive evil, you must do better, sweetheart.
Question for the crew. What can we say to the people who listen to Candace and believe her? It feels like talking to a leftist at this point, and I'm not sure how we can break through to them.
It does.
No, they're in chat. Good luck.
Some of them are. Yeah. I don't know. I honestly, I wouldn't, you try and have the initial conversation and be as blunt as possible. At that point, just go hog wild. Look, I mean, you know what this is going to do with the Kirk family, Erica Kirk, and their friends with the Trump administration. And by the way, you know what this would do to the conservative movement and the MAGA movement and all the gains that have been made. Like, you know how corrosive this would be
don't you think you should maybe wait until there's any evidence? And if they say no, and they go, we've been betrayed by Donald Trump, I mean, then you're dealing with someone who was calling for the impeachment of Donald Trump over the Iran strikes. And honestly, I would say it's kind of a lost cause. So
yeah, they don't ever stop either. They don't. It's like how I deal with my brother. My brother Jeremy has Down syndrome. He refuses to accept reality. All day, like, I'm gonna be a Pittsburgh Steeler. All right.
Okay.
Have fun, buddy.
Yeah.
Why'd you want to be a loser?
Someone who will attack you where you go, where you're going, I don't have any evidence at all that the Trump administration killed Charlie Kirk. And I'd be very careful in making that accusation.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to make it. As a matter of fact, I think the opposite is true. I have a ton of evidence that they wouldn't. A lot. And someone who then screams at you, attacks you, and calls you a shill for that reasonable position, that's not a reasonable person. I'm sorry, we can have a difference of opinion. I get it. You can say, I don't believe the full official story on the Charlie Kirk assassination.
Right.
I would say that's a reasonable position to hold.
You have questions.
Very
reasonable.
I still do.
Yeah.
I want to know who else worked with this guy. I do believe that Tyler Robinson was the person who did it. I don't necessarily believe that he acted alone. And I don't believe that we got the entire straight story from the feds. And I think some of that was probably just people speaking a little too quickly and then trying to cover their tracks. But I think there's more to this story. I think that's a reasonable position to hold. Someone who says it's unreasonable for you to say, hey, accusing the Trump administration, ergo TPUSA, and Charlie Kirk's wife of taking him out. That's like, you need to have some proof for that. If someone attacks you, that is not a reasonable person. That's my opinion. And by the way, if you're watching and that describes you, I don't view your stance as, you are still more than welcome to watch and allow me to continue to make my case. Unreasonable people are still encouraged and welcome to watch. But I will tell you, I think it's an unreasonable position.
Well, as we have seen in this episode and throughout the series, Candace Owens doesn't mind making conservatives look bad or causing fractures because she never really has. She's been perfectly fine with causing all kinds of drama inside of the conservative movement with other conservatives and driving fractures between everybody on the right that are, in the coalition or have shows or whatever. I mean, she starts attacking Meghan McCain. How many people does that alienate? All the people that like Meghan McCain now don't like the Daily Wire and such and such. Do you see what I'm saying? So she always seemed to have that goal of fracturing the right, whether it was explicit or it's just this crazy psychology that she has to do this kind of a thing. Oh, and she also didn't help bring Black people into the conservative movement either, because all she did was insult them on a daily basis. How she would insult their intelligence and say they were all slaves and say they were all low IQ and stuff like that. So very concerning behavior. And so when Steven Crowder said what he said just then, that either she's just really dumb or she's trying to do this, well, she's always been doing it. She's always been doing it. And now she's really, really crossed the line. But as we can see, this is how she's always been. And she was just allowed to do it. And everybody just let her do it. And so many people are divided. And I really wish that the right could unite and not care so much about, other people that are slightly different from them on the right or whatever. Because we'd be so much more powerful. But life is life. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode 8 in the Candace Owens series that we have going on here. Episodes drop on Fridays, and I'm so glad that you're here. If you're new here, I'm glad you're here as well. Please click the like and the subscribe button and leave me a comment about how you feel about this episode. Have a good day or evening, depending on what time it is for you. And I will see you next time on The Eclectic Journalist.